Hello?
Good evening. How are you all doing out there? I'd like to ask the audience at this time to stand for the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation will be given by Board Member Studdard, and then that's going to be followed by the Tynes Elementary Chorus.
If you'd bow your heads, please. Our Father, we give thanks to you for this day. We also give thanks for our students, administrators, teachers, and staff who give their very best each and every day. We ask that you be with us tonight as we discuss issues and ask that you guide us to make decisions that are in the best interest of our students. In your holy name we pray. Amen. Would you join me in the pledge to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so at this time, the Tynes Elementary School Chorus is going to perform 2 songs in recognition of Music Month in our schools, and they will be directed by Cassie Crosby, who is one of Clay County's top 5 teachers of the year.
We would like to begin by honoring our military and celebrating our freedom with Armed Forces Melody. Active and retired personnel, please stand and be recognized when your branch melody is performed.
That was absolutely wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much. The students, you can all be dismissed. Yeah, okay.
Hey, I'll give you a high five.
That was wonderful.
I rated it 100 stars because I like it. 200. I think 1 million gazillion stars. Because
1 million
I love
gazillion.
very much.
Okay. We'll give you 1 million gazillion.
I'm almost as tall as my own mom.
Well, you did a good job.
I'm as tall as Hank Wilson. I look like a
I bet you that teacher enjoys that class. Cute, cute, cute. Oh. That'll. The room will clear out now.
No, totally good, totally good. I did that a long time ago, like 20 years ago to be exact.
Oh, that long? I could tell him a story that'd break his heart. Oh.
Okay, we got everybody out. Okay, I'd like to welcome you all, and I'd like to call the school board meeting to order. I'd like to welcome the citizens of Clay County. I want to take the opportunity to thank you for coming and taking the time out of your busy schedule to attend tonight's school board meeting. This meeting is your opportunity as your elected representatives to collaborate openly and make decisions will decide the future direction of our public schools and the education of our children here in Clay County. If you wish to address the board, there is an opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. Please fill out a yellow card, which you'll find at the back of the room, and turn it in promptly. Also, please indicate the specific item number or topic that you wish to speak about. No additional cards will be accepted once the board moves to the discussion agenda. Your participation is welcome and appreciated, and I will just say that we do have a number of yellow cards up here. So with that, we had one item from the consent agenda that was pulled. It was pulled by the staff. It was item C2, so we'll address that one when we get to discussion. But for the interim, the first item up is adoption of the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval.
I'll second. I have a motion by Ms. Studdard and a second by Ms. Karakis. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, at this time, I did have one item a yellow card by Mr. Travis Christensen, who wanted to speak to an item C10, which was amendment to the charter school. So, Mr. Christensen, would you like to come on up? We shouldn't have approved.
Travis Christensen, 2871 Affirmed Court. I have no recommendation for or against this amendment itself. However, I do call into question the financial impact analysis by the staff. It says 0 impact. Now, I don't know the details, but if they're adding a grade, I assume they're going to have more students. Now, there's been a great deal said in this chamber and in many other places about the financial impact of charter schools to school district budgets. In the future, if we see these type of institutions proliferate, it becomes very hard to make the argument that they're destroying the district budget if at this point we're saying there's no financial impact. I basically would like an explanation of how a 0 impact result was arrived at. Thank you.
Okay.
For that item, just for clarity, we have one existing charter school right now. It's Orange Park Performing Arts Academy. They're K-5. They're in Orange Park, which is a K-6 model in a 7th and 8th grade junior high. We have projected financial impact for that charter school for this year, and I shared with the board and the public last month an overall financial impact number for coming years. For adding 6th grade, which makes sense to not make those students change schools 3 or 4 times before they hit 7th grade. We thought that was in the best interest of those students, but we did not do a specific financial estimate and try to guess how many 6th graders may stay at Orange Park Performing Arts Academy that have been there 1 year in 5th grade. So that's really what I know about that. I don't know if that exactly is on point, but that's how that rationale came about.
Thank you, Superintendent.
Madam Chairman, may I ask a question? Just so that, since we have such a huge audience tonight, what is that performing arts school costing the district each year in estimation, round numbers?
Do we have that figure? About $1.2 million.
1.2 million?
Yeah.
Out of our money? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Next item is recognition and awards. Our first item up is the Fleming Island High Robotics Team. Howard Mr. Wingate.
All right, we go from putting on the Ritz to putting on the robotics here
Right.
for a second, okay? As you know, we like to recognize our academic programs in the county. We have such wonderful students, and the teachers are just so wonderful. Robotics, as you know, many of you have attended the robotics competitions we've had, and it's expanded into 5 of our high schools, and it's really taken off. I think our dream is to see a robotics competition and have 1,000 people in the stands watching this, and so we'll get there one day and everything. But tonight we want to recognize Fleming Island High School Robotics. We have, they competed this past year, 152 teams in the state, 152 robotics teams, 27 qualified for the state competition, and Fleming Island High School placed 14th out of that. So we're proud of that and everything. This has really taken off. And so what we want to do is introduce the 2 sponsors. They're going to introduce their members, and I would ask Mr. Howard Altman and Mr. Rick Scheimer to come up at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Wingate. It's really nothing short of miraculous that we're standing here before you today. 3 weeks before school started, Rick Scheimer and I knew absolutely nothing about robotics. And when I say nothing, really not anything at all. But due to the vision of many here tonight and a lot of hard work by Kathy Schofield and Donna Wethington at the county office, they obtained a Department of Defense grant which funded basically everything that we did. It's doing all sorts of other good work too, but so we went to training in late July. We got the group together, and my goodness, it was just phenomenal what happened starting in early September. And to come in 14th out of 152 teams in the state our first year, yeah, the kids did a phenomenal job. But there's one other person I need to recognize at the county office who I truly think knows more about robotics than anybody in the county. That's Leslie Bryan. She not only went to the training with us in late July, but Leslie also really sponsored a number of the meets. She went down to states with us. She learned a tremendous amount, and really without her help and guidance and ordering and every bit of hand-holding you can imagine, it really couldn't happen. So just, you know, a tremendous amount of work by so many people. With that, let me turn it over to Rick Scheimer, and he's going to introduce the team that really did all the work. Rick?
Thank you, sir. Again, my name is Rick Scheimer, and my job this evening is to introduce the fabulous team that is hiding back there in the back. If you guys could be kind enough to stand up for me, I'd like to introduce everyone. Oh, they're actually coming up. Come on up. We have a lovely pageant for you this evening. Coming up first is Miss Martine Montgomery, Mr. Jacob Porter, Mr. Jarrett Ford, Mr. Sam Gathercole, Mr. Griffin Powell, Miss Lindsay Ross, and Miss Rebecca Martell. The three other team members that couldn't be with us this evening were Mr. Adam Shaudell, Dario Steckley, and Zachary Jelsma. So thank you for your time. Thanks for all the support. It's great teaching in Clay County. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Standing. Okay, all right. Our next item, next recognition is Mr. Bob Boyd. Is he here? All right, come on up. Mr. Bob Boyd is going to recognize the Clay County Striders Walk Run Club.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the introduction. And I am Bob Boyd, and my guide and spokesmodel is Carol McDougall. And more importantly, she is the Florida Striders Children's Run Walk Coordinator. Just a little bit of background and why we're here. Regular physical exercise during the school day enhances not just a child's physical fitness, but their grades, their behavior during school, their self-esteem. And I think this is worth repeating. Regular exercise during the school day enhances not only physical fitness, but grades, classroom behavior, and self-esteem. And the Florida Striders, of which I'm a past president, we have been leading or promoting physical fitness in Clay County for almost 40 years now. And more importantly, for our purpose here tonight, the Florida Striders Run Walk program has been supporting for almost 30 years now children's run walk programs, and we are proud, along with our title sponsor, Orange Park Medical Center, to have been providing at no cost to the children who earn the awards, their schools or their families, mileage incentive awards for all of the mileage that they can earn during the year. And Carol, who also administers that very important program, has brought along a few of our, so you know what we're talking about, a Mile Club shirt, and I think, oh, sorry.
I have from 50 mile, all of them all the way up to 300 mile club shirts. And then we do have some runners that go beyond that, but this is what we actually provide.
Wow, that's great.
Several thousand of those T-shirts are awarded a year to kids that have earned them. It's a big deal. And she's also brought one of our marathon medals, which any child that has run 26 or more miles during the school year gets awarded this towards the end of the school year. And I think you have one of those, Carol?
Yep, I'm holding up. That's
Okay.
great.
Is that cumulative miles, or is that all at one time?
That's cumulative through the school year.
Yeah, okay.
And each year we start again tracking the miles, and all of the coaches at all of the schools that participate track their children's mileage, and so they can get a marathon medal each year that they're in elementary school.
That's great.
Okay, thank you, Carol.
You want to tell them how many medals we just ordered?
Well, I will. Carol just in the last week ordered 4,700 some marathon medals for children in the area that have earned them during this school year. So it's a big program, and it's for them it's much like getting the Olympic gold when they come up and get their marathon medal at the end of the school year. So I wanted to talk about the Move It competition specifically. That program quite simply awards to the school that has the most miles earned per student an award, and we now have, it started last year. This year it's awarding both the first semester and then for the full school year. And it's literally tracked by dividing the total number of miles that the school has earned by the total number of students to come up with a fair comparison from school to school. The Move It competition is a big deal because it recognizes schools for finding time in a very busy school day to include that very important physical exercise during the school day. And it also shows a long-term focus that is required by the entire school, their staff, and the children to get that done throughout the school year. I'll tell you that the leader with a little over 18.5 miles per student for the first semester is Lakeside Elementary, but I want to tell you a little bit about the person who's going to receive that on behalf of Lakeside Elementary. She has not only led her winning school for the first semester in obviously a first-class fashion, but she has a 29-year record of being a top performer. In fact, she even initiated the Marathon Medal program almost 29 years ago, which the Florida Striders have continued, and as you can see, it's grown dramatically over the years. In total, the Florida Striders are supporting some 15,000 elementary school children in some 50 elementary schools, and the winning coach who's going to receive the award for Lakeside Elementary is Mrs. Kim Tracana Bro. Congratulations, Kim.
Thank you.
Wonderful job.
Thank you.
The competition continues. This is a great job to Lakeside Elementary for an excellent job in the first semester. Who's going to win for the whole school year, though, is still up for grabs. It's a close competition. It's hard fought, and we won't know until sometime in mid to late April who the overall winner is for the school year. So good luck to everyone, and may the best school win. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Ready.
Okay, next on the agenda is presenters. I'd like to call up Cherie Stewart. She is going to introduce Tom Besaw for the Ford Next Generation Learning High School Academy update.
Behave, Miss Studdard.
If you say it, I will.
Okay, I'll be quiet then. Good evening. Welcome, and this is such a beautiful, nice, rainy evening this evening we're having. And saw most of you guys today at the fair luncheon, so it's that time again. But tonight I'm here to introduce Tom Besaw to you, and we are glad that he is here this evening. He was actually supposed to be here last month. This Mike and I are going to fight. And he was sick, so we are glad that he is back feeling better and here tonight. Tom is an advocate for innovative and engaging education. He is also a partner with our Ford Next Generation Learning Communities, which we are one of, I think, 20 now. It was 17. One of 20 throughout the nation. Several here in Florida, because Florida is a leader in so many ways, including our academies. So Tom's here to tell us tonight a little more about Ford and just to give us a little update as to where we are. So, Tom?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Well, Chairperson McKinnon,
school board members, Superintendent Van Zandt, thank you for this opportunity. And also, it's really an honor to be here in Clay County. You are one of our wonderful affiliates. There are 20 in the country. You started by going, let me share with you, you started by visiting other affiliate members of Ford NGL and seeing what they're doing. What's happened in the 2 years is they're coming here to see what you're doing. It's just outstanding what's taking place. And somewhere there's a clicker. This is the clicker, right? We will see if someone from Ford Next Generation can actually run a clicker. You see the first slide, it talks about you and Ford Next Generation Learning, but let me say this to you. Ford Next Generation Learning is actually an initiative of the Ford Motor Company Fund. And that's the philanthropic arm of, you know, that company that makes those cars and trucks. And I'm going to share with you why Ford's even involved with this. And just, you know, maybe I pushed a button here. It just did that. I don't know. Also, I didn't think it, you know, it was all that fair that you would ask a person to come up and present after the elementary school with their hats and putting on the Ritz. I mean, this is really tough to do. The next picture here that you're seeing is Henry Ford. So there's Henry. And Henry Ford started over 70 schools in his lifetime, 70. The schools he started were all about relevancy, all about students being able to be engaged in what they like and what they want to do. And by being engaged, they learn their skills. And now I feel like I just went stereo. This is really quite exciting tonight. I present Henry Ford to you. He's long gone, but his message in terms of community work, in terms of what we should be doing and working with our students, still exists. The Ford Motor Company is no different than any industry here in Clay County, the state of Florida, or this country. Here's the issue that we have. The issue is this. The baby boomers, I'm one of them, there's no question, haven't retired yet, probably should, but the point is they're retiring at very high numbers. Retiring at such high numbers, not sure how to replace them. But the key as far as replacing them is this. You see that second item there, many high-skilled scientific and technical jobs go unfilled. The jobs are there. When folks say that we can't find employment, there's a disconnect between the opportunities that exist and the skill set of our citizens in the country. It's extremely important that we have this conversation with our citizens, that starts with our children and their parents, about what it takes to be employed, what it takes to be the supervisor, what it takes to be the entrepreneur to own a business. It really comes down to skill sets. That's a problem we're having, though, is finding the folks with those skill sets. Another thing, this is not true in Clay County. Clay County has one of the highest graduation rates in the state of Florida, but when you look across the nation, the situation is that the high school dropout rate is somewhere around 30%, and the minority population is around 50%. We compete internationally. We compete internationally for business, and we compete internationally in terms of the folks who are going to be working for us. We cannot compete if 30% of the students in our school systems don't complete. Now you can look at it, now by the way, you notice that says dropout rate. In the state of Florida that would more likely say graduation rate, but when you look at different states, some states call it dropout and others call it graduation. In Florida the dropout rates are in the 1, 2, 3, 4% numbers. The key is how many are actually graduated from high school. And I'm going to bring up one other point too, and that is this. We have lots of students who actually graduate from high schools in this country who really dropped out while they were in high school. And what do I mean by that is, do they have skill sets when they graduate that can be used in business and industry? Have they yet made the connection that I've got to have skills that I can sell to a business in order to be employed? So thank you for allowing me to go through those couple of slides. Because really what it comes down to is this. The U.S. ranking in post-secondary degree obtainment used to be #1. It isn't. Economic growth linked to post-secondary education is absolutely key to the success of the economy in the United States. And too many Americans are undereducated. But undereducated doesn't necessarily mean, because when we stand here for years, what we would say, when you look at that post-secondary degree obtainment, what most folks would say to us is, that means you mean bachelor's degrees and master's degrees and doctorate degrees, and yeah, mean that. But what we also mean is this, industry certifications. Clay County Schools is one of the leaders in the state of Florida in delivering industry certifications to your students. We also mean technical education degrees, 2-year degrees, certificates, skill sets that can be sold, skill sets that will help industry be successful. Now, this is a Henry Ford quote. That's not Henry, by the way. If I'd asked my customers what they wanted, they'd say they'd said a faster horse. They didn't really want the Model T. They weren't thinking transportation. Well, now let's think of it from your standpoint as a school board and as a school district. One of your customers is a business community. And if you flat out said to the business community, what do you want? They'll say, well, we want people with the soft skills. We want people that can read, write, and compute. Would you agree? And how long have you heard that? For how many years? Forever? But we're still saying it. So something that we have to have is a discussion with our total community, and that's what you've done. And the discussion essentially says, how do we all play a role? How do we enter into a partnership, business community, nonprofits, economic development agencies, school board, post-secondary institutions to do this? To increase the academic achievement of our students, which would then increase earning potential, improve preparation for college and career, increase workforce talent pipeline, increase high school graduation rates, and increase community prosperity. See, all these things increase community prosperity. Community prosperity also means, by the way, that there's the money available for places such as Clay County school system. Would you agree? The healthier we are, the more money we have to generate to provide this great education. What you're seeing there, those are the long-term outcomes of Ford NGL. That's why we exist. I'll ask you and look at you as a school board and say, are these similar to your long-term outcomes? Indeed, aren't they your long-term outcomes? We're in partnership. Well, that's interesting. That's supposed to say harness, I don't even know what it says. Okay. Harnessing relevance. It doesn't look like it to me, though. Does it to you? Yes. Okay. And community orientation. Look, Henry Ford in his 70s school said it had to be relevant. What we're saying from Ford NGL is we feel very strongly that if we're going to reach all students, it's got to be relevant. This is one person's opinion I'm going to give you right now. I believe there are 15% of the students in your school system, my school system, almost any school system, that they're just going to do great no matter what. They just plain are going to do great. There's no question. And matter of fact, the education might not even have to be relevant to them. They just love to learn, love to go to school, love to whatever. But you know that other 85%, I happen to be one of them. If it's something that is relevant to me, I'm much more likely to be involved. I'm much more likely to get the concepts. I'm much more likely to recognize, if I don't know that math concept, I cannot solve this problem, and I want to solve this problem because this problem is about what I want to do in life. So what you have done as a community is you developed a master plan. And you developed this master plan and were recognized by Ford NGL for completing it 2 years ago. And the master plan was developed around transforming teaching and learning. There are 3 strands. Strand 1, teaching and learning. And essentially it's saying, let's take a look at teaching and learning, and let's make sure it's relevant. And let's make sure that in that teaching and learning that we look at some project-based learning, that we tie what we're doing to the students, what the students have interest in, have great interest in, and do that in every subject area. Doing that, we talk about transform the secondary school experience. And what we heavily believe in and what you have absolutely agreed with and are doing now through your wall-to-wall academies is we believe in the Career Academy model. And we believe in it because you're integrating your academic subjects with your career and technical, or if it's not career and technical, you're integrating it with the arts. The point is you're integrating it with the hook. The hook is what's known as relevance. If I want to be there, I'm more likely to be interested in what's taking place. And we can show the relationship between what we're learning and actually realize that, I do need that English concept. I need to be able to do that. But the key also is strand 3, and that is transforming business and civic engagement. What's taken place in our school systems forever, and that's the horse, that's changing thought process is this. What's taken place is we as a community look at you, the school board, and look at the superintendent and the teachers and say, get it right. Make sure our students come out and can read, write, and compute. That's what we say to you. But we say that to you, and we don't really say we'll do it in partnership. And what you have done with your master plan is you said, we're going to do this in partnership. You have stakeholders who have agreed with you and worked with you and written this plan and said, we are going to be part of the process and part of evaluating how well we have done. We, the school system, we, the post-secondary institutions, we, the business community, in educating the students of Clay County so that Clay County has one of the strongest economic environments in this state, in this nation. That's what they've said. That's what you've done. That's what we congratulate you for. It's a great plan. And you did this by going through essential practices. And now there are people, I'm sure, in this room tonight that wrote the plan. So is anyone in the room that wrote the plan, would you raise your hands? Is there anyone in the room that was part of writing this plan? And there you are. And how was the work? It was hard work, wasn't it?
It certainly was.
It's hard work, but you saw people at the table that weren't at the table before when you're sitting there with business folks and post-secondary folks and economic development folks saying, this is all us. This is what we're going to do for Clay County. And thank you for your efforts in doing that. It was hard work. You dealt with curriculum. You dealt with career academies. But I want you to take a look at this slide, because this relates to career academies and it relates to your business community. So what does success look like? So take a look at the features on the left-hand side, and you'll see things. So there they are: work-based learning, college credit or industry certifications, mentors from the community, develop 21st century skills through projects, career pathway exposure. Those are the features. They're in your plan. But everything on the right are the benefits. For doing those things, look at the benefits. Better prepared for college and career. College more affordable. Invaluable social capital. Students more marketable. Understands what it means to be successful. But here's the deal. Those are the features. Those are the benefits. You can talk about those features in your classrooms forever. Teachers can stand up there. They can talk about it. They can present lesson plans. It isn't going to happen. It isn't going to work until it's relevant. And the relevance is going to be business helping pull off those benefits. Business has to be involved in this process. They absolutely do. So there it is. Business and community engagement. You were designated because you absolutely have your community working with you. And I know the challenge of this. The challenge of it is to continually work together doing this. Working with Sharice Stewart, we've discussed the fact that one of the challenges that we, Ford Next Generation Learning, have for you, our community, Clay County, is to say, look, each year you need to take a look at this plan. Each year you have to say, this is where we said we would be in May of 2015. Are we there? Let's take a look at what we said. And this is what you're going to find out. You're going to find out in many cases you're absolutely on target. You're going to find some places where you're going to say, we haven't even started that yet. And there's nothing wrong with that. We call it an annual retreat. We absolutely challenge you to bring back all those stakeholders that wrote the plan, bring in all the people in the community that you think ought to be involved with this project, and let them see the plan and have this discussion. This is what's working. This is where we need more help. If you find out you need more internships, you look at the business community and say, you know, you said you'd do this. We need more internships. If you found out, let me tell you something else that you found out, though, because you went through these phases. You went through phase 1 saying, this is what we think we want to do. You went through phase 2, and 2 of your school board members played a role in writing that plan. Phase 3 is implementing. You're doing that now. And you did something in this implementation that's just absolutely outstanding. You did something that not any other of our affiliates has done yet. And that is this. You said, we're going to have 50% of our students, of our high school students in career academies, and we're going to do that, and I don't remember the year. I think it was 17. I think it was by 2000. It might have been 2018. But what you've done is you took a look at the plan and you looked at where you were going and you said, you know what, we're going to go a step further, and we're going to go wall to wall. And as I stand here tonight, you have your 9th graders and 10th graders in wall-to-wall high schools with career academies. That's correct, right? Okay, good. And that's just outstanding. You know, what I recognize is this, in working with you and working with your school district, we originally were sending you, and I shared this to start, we originally were sending you to Volusia County to learn how to do certain things. We were sending you to Pinellas County, we were sending you to Polk County, and we also sent you to Nashville, and that's where you found a wall-to-wall community. They were a wall-to-wall community. They were the first one in Ford Next Generation Learning. But from them, you changed your plan, and you've gone into wall-to-wall. And as I said, they are now coming here. They're going to be coming here. They want to see how you're doing this. They want to congratulate you, but they want to learn from you as well. That's the thing about Ford Next Generation affiliates. Best practices are shared between communities. We learn from each other. We also discuss what didn't work so well. We discuss what did. This is a quote from Henry Ford. Coming together is a beginning. Keeping together is progress. Working together is success. I present this quote because, you know, you came together. You absolutely the beginning in writing the plan. You absolutely have been keeping together by implementing this plan. Working together, challenge each other, challenge the business community, the post-secondary, yourselves to continually keep your eye on that target. And there's no doubt in my mind that the high school graduation rate, which is already great, is going to be higher, that the dropout rate is going to be lower, that the economic development realities of Clay County are going to be better than ever. See, this is something you also, Clay County, can absolutely sell to people who are saying, we want to put a business in Clay County. We want our children to go to schools in Clay County. You've got it, you're doing it, and we thank you so much for the efforts that you have. And that's our presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Tom, thank you for being with us tonight. And just for a point of clarity, every 9th grader in Clay County is in an academy this year, and every 8th grader has had an academy night at their school, to their high school they're going to. And so next year, Tom, you're just a few months ahead of me. Every 9th and 10th grader will be in an academy. We have 11th and 12th graders that are already in an academy. So we'll be at 50% mark August of this year.
Okay, we are moving into our discussion agenda. This will be the last call for yellow cards. Do we have any other yellow cards? Okay. The first item up under Superintendent Update, we've actually moved item D5 up. This is a discussion of a proposed program with AMI Kids, and if Mr. Wingate and Dr. Hatcher would like to come on up, I believe they're going to introduce.
Okay, thank you. We're here tonight to present a program to you. As we just heard from the Ford folks, our students are just excelling. But we have some at-risk students that we're very concerned about, like all school districts. And tonight we've got a program that we want to present to you so that you can learn more about AMI. That's the Associate Marine Institute. Ask some questions of these folks. And in front of you, you have a packet or a folder that I put on your table. And it has the flyer and also the PowerPoint presentation that you will see in just a few minutes. Okay, with that said, a couple weeks ago, we contacted AMI. They wanted to partner with Clay County in order to work with troubled youth and specifically focusing on males. The partnership has a goal to provide a day treatment program for males who have entered the juvenile justice system. This program has a successful track record of offering an alternative opportunity for young males who are caught in a downward spiral of incarceration. Currently, AMI has over 40 sites around the country, and the program is designed to reduce recidivism by improving the lives of these young people by combining behavior modification, education, and treatment in a unified approach. Dr. Hatcher has been working with me as we've had some conversations with the AMI folks and also with Pinellas County, which has had a long-standing relationship with AMI. In fact, I think dating back to the mid-'60s, late '60s. And so we have contacted Pinellas County for a lot of great things about the program. So I'm going to let Dr. Hatcher make a few general comments, and then he'll introduce the representative of AMI tonight. They will show you the PowerPoint presentation. Will be available for questions afterwards, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so with that, Dr. Hatcher.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Just some general context information to kind of let you know how AMI Kids is why they're here today as well. Mr. Wingate told you about us contacting them. However, we did receive some information probably about a month ago. There was an inquiry that a 501c3 organization wanted to establish an alternative school in Clay County. And of course, Mr. Wingate then asked me to go ahead and research the information, try to find out as much information as possible, and let's discuss it. So I contacted the CEO of AMI Kids, who is O.B. Stander, who the first thing he wanted to share with me, he says, please share this with anyone that you speak to, and that is, under no circumstance will we ever put an AMI Kids facility in a county that doesn't want it. He said, that's the first thing. We want to put it where it's wanted because we believe the program works. We're that confident that the program works. So I started asking him some additional questions, and he told me a wealth of information is available online, so I started pulling information online. And then I called him back and I said, well, you know, it says, you know, that the program helps kids anywhere from 5th grade all the way to 12th grade. Then he said, well, specifically the program that we want to try in Clay County would be geared towards junior high school boys only, because some work that he's done, some research that he's received, and I would imagine also some funding, some federal dollars that he received also identified this target area as the most at risk in terms of making sure that they're successful later in life. And so he said, why don't you contact my executive director in Pinellas County, Mr. Robert Johnson. So I called Mr. Johnson. We had a long discussion one Saturday, and he told me that he just felt that the program was just so overwhelming. The first opportunity he had for kids to sign up for the program, the school district had 150 applicants for him. Now, they only had 50 slots, so they really piled through those applications and selected the best 50 candidates they could, with the intent of later, maybe perhaps the next year, bringing on additional kids at that particular facility. And I said, well, can you tell me a little bit more about this program that you're talking about? Then he said, well, of course, you know, it's anti-bullying character, and also criminal behavior counseling for your young people. So who commits a lot of the crimes in this target area? Well, these are junior high school kids. I said, well, we already have an alternative program, and it's a very effective alternative program. And he said, well, do some of those kids disrupt the alternative programs day? And I said, well, probably every alternative program have kids like that. And he said, exactly. He says, those are the kids we can target. What do you do with those kids that you have to kick out or you have to suspend from an alternative program? Aren't they due an education as well? And I said, by all means. And he says, those are the kids we think we can help in Clay County. And so it was a wonderful opportunity, a calling that I got a chance to speak to him. And he said, why don't we do this? Why don't we come and present a formal presentation to your board so they can ask those very poignant questions, those straightforward questions about the things that they're really interested in. So we invited them here today. And so we have two of the representatives, although the CEA, O.B. Stander, he wanted to be here, but he had prior arrangements to be out of the state on business. So we have with us today Dr. Phildra Swagger and Rebecca Corrigan to present to you the presentation that you have before you at this time. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Board Chair McKinnon, Superintendent Vincent. I'm Dr. Phildra Swagger from AMI Kids. I serve as the National Director of Education. And this is Ms. Rebecca Corrigan. She's our Director of Vocational Education. I should start by saying, as we were sitting listening to the Fort Next Generation, she was like, that's my job, that's what I do, that's what I do. So I'm very excited that although we provide alternative education, we have locked into developing at-risk youth with the opportunity to have vocational training, career opportunities, and post-secondary placements. So I think our vision for education is right in line with what you're doing here in Clay County. So thank you for having us this evening. I will move into our presentation and try to answer any questions that you have. Just to give a brief history of AMI Kids, we were started in 1969, so we've been around for a while in Florida. We started in Fort Lauderdale as a prevention program for young men that were going through the juvenile court system with Judge Frank Orlando, who is the founder of AMI Kids and continues to sit on our national board. So the history and the family, the longevity and the continuity we have, it continues from our initiating founder to our founder, our president and CEO today, Mr. O.B. Stander, who's been with the organization for more than 43 years himself. So we are quite established. Our programs have been recognized as evidence-based by SAMHSA, which is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Association. Also, we have a promising practice status by Department of Juvenile Justice. And most recently, we earned advanced ed accreditation as schools, for each of our schools at the corporate level, which would be district in parallel, as well as each of our sites. We operate nearly 47 sites in 7 states, including 21 here in Florida. We are as far west as New Mexico, Texas, as far north as North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia. So we have a vast a vast number of states that we serve and different modalities of programming, including day treatment, alternative schools, as well as residential and therapeutic programs known as family functional therapy. Our population of students that we intend to partner with you here in Clay County would be to serve the male students referred to our program by the school district or the Department of Juvenile Justice, as well as parents who feel that their children are right on the brink There's no such term as pre-delinquent, but on the brink of making those poor choices or following that wrong crowd that would necessarily lead them down the wrong path. So they may already be involved in the alternative education system. They may be at the door of expulsion, or they just may be that kid that needs a last chance opportunity before he or she, but in this case, only boys. And I say he or she because we do have programs throughout our network that are co-ed. So the residential programs are gender specific, and the program in Pinellas County is gender specific as well. And the program that we're proposing here would be males only. So these are overage middle school students. I feel middle-aged sometimes when I make these presentations, but overage middle school students, therefore, that we define as 2 years, 2 grade levels behind their graduating cohort. Oftentimes we have ninth graders that come to us at 17 with 1 credit, 2 credits, 3 credits, and we work with them to really move them through our credit recovery program and assist them in either graduating with a diploma or earning their GED. We have a preparation for both. I have mentioned that these are students that are suspended and those that are low performing and disengaged in the academic environment. Our conceptual framework is what we call the personal growth model, and there's really 4 components. The 3 obvious components are treatment, behavior modification, and education. Under treatment, every student that enters our program is given an assessment and developed an individual academic plan similar to our special education model of IEP. They may or may not be special education, so it's an individual academic plan that includes their goals for treatment, behavior modification, and education. It is the model of what their individualized program will look like. The behavior modification program, in a nutshell, is based on building community and responsibility. We use a rank system as well as a token economy and positive behavior reinforcement to help students develop leadership and character. Education is a core of what we believe in, and preparing each of our students to be high school graduates and successful citizens. I often tell the students when I speak to them, although you've had trouble in your life, I want to be comfortable without having known that you've completed the AMI Kids program, to see you in the community or to find that you live in my immediate neighborhood, that I don't feel threatened by that we've given you enough self-confidence, put you on a different path, allowed you to develop better decision-making skills where you're not necessarily a threat to the community, that you're a contributor and not a taker. And so I believe the kids receive that well. In our education piece, we have recently received a $5 million grant from the Department of Labor that focuses on our career efforts, and those career academies that we offer focus on IT, culinary arts, health, as well as construction. We use experiential education approach, and that is through a partnership and a curriculum that was developed with the Florida Atlantic University. And much of the instruction is developed based on project-based learning. So we are quite excited about the way that our education model is delivered in the school setting. I say there's a 4th piece, and that's because the hub of our personal growth model is often overlooked. It's the experiential challenges, and what we offer our students are opportunity to peek into worlds that they would not necessarily believe have an opportunity to see in their typical experience. We take students whitewater rafting, rock rappelling. In the summer we have what's called our summer challenges, and they travel to a 4-year university, typically in South Carolina, where they live on campus for a week. And this is often the first time that many of our students have been out of their local communities, and for the first time in their families that many of them have been on a college campus. So we believe it's an aha moment in their lives where they have the opportunity to say that, oh, I can be here, I have a right to higher education, and this place is, you know, pretty cool, and I have the wherewithal and now the tools to make this a reality in my life. So we really strive to give them that experience. When we look at the services of the AP, the APGM, what is our company called? AMI Kids Personal Growth Model. I generally just call it the Personal Growth Model. The services can be arranged around the three components that I mentioned: education, behavior modification, and treatment. And if you group those, you will see that the vocational education, employability, and life skills would fall under education, with behavior modification having the token economy and rank system. And then, of course, our treatment. If you move into specifically what's needed for our boys, we look at the needs and where the program services would lie. We look at defining masculinity definitions, hands-on activities, synthesizing approaches, and gender-based treatment. One of our most effective models is the Council for Boys and Young Men, which is an opportunity for them to come together as a council and really discuss and hash out ways and emotions, activities, and occurrences in their young lives that impact them as young men growing up, and how they define those. And those sessions are led by our treatment team, which are licensed mental health counselors, and so the students have an opportunity in a safe environment to express those emotions that distract them from school and being successful. Another key component here is that we really focus on building family in the school setting and working with the family, because working with the student in isolation to overcome those behaviors and those emotions and then sending them back into the dysfunction of their home is often more than the student can manage themselves. So we take plenty of opportunities to have the families involved in the children's program, involved in the schools, and then our counselors are also involved in the family units as a whole. In our partnership, and Dr. Hatcher said that, our CEO, Mr. O.B. Stander, believes in developing partnerships. It's not an opportunity to come into the district and make a sale. My intent tonight is to explain what it is that we do and really who we are. So we would like to develop a partnership with the community, a partnership with the school district, so that we can service the students that are really the most challenging in the alternative setting and the most disruptive in your traditional schools, and give them the positive tools. So in doing that, we often seek to have the program located in an existing or underutilized school facility, so they have the feeling that they are actually still attending a traditional school, not necessarily, the other spot or the other bus or that type of less than persona that they would have if they go elsewhere. Funding is typically in our Florida district split. That is a 95-5 split on the FTE generated by the students we serve, and that is so that the district maintains resources for special education oversight. Typically the students remain enrolled in their zone school, so they're in your student information system, and we then provide you all of the data, and so that management is where those administrative fees are allocated to and held back. AMI Kids is currently seeking state prevention funding through an allocation that would allow us to have some startup money as well as reoccurring dollars to go forth. It's never our intention to have a one-year program. It is an intention to fund the first year so that it is a win-win for our organization as well as the district, and then to secure additional dollars to move forward. Of course, we provide all of the curriculum and programming as well as the personnel. We have found that our program has a great impact on reducing the number of students that move through the school to prison pipeline. We improve teacher and student safety in school by removing the students that are most disruptive. We enhance the graduation rate of the students that are involved in our programs and reduce the dropout rate simultaneously. Oftentimes our students are really the bottom quartile academically performing, and probably the majority of the students that are behaviorally disruptive. So that helps the schools reduce their suspension and expulsion rates on their traditional records. And of course we reduce these students by involvement in arrest and court involvement because their attendance improves and their discipline decreases by being involved in our program. So we really look to improve the overall outcomes of the students. That is a quick overview of AMI Kids and what we like to develop with the AMI Kids gender-specific program here in Clay County, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I have some.
Thank you, Ms.
Number one, what does AMI stand for?
AMI has historically been known as the Associated Marine Institute. In years past, it would have been Associated Marine Institute of Clay County, Associated Marine Institute of Tampa. Well, everybody's into acronyms now, so we rebranded, and we're AMI Kids. So it's associated.
I was just sitting here trying to think, what could AMI stand for? I don't know.
Well, one of the reasons our namesake is that we have used water sports and recreation as the key to our therapeutic model. So our kids learn scuba diving, they go boating. We have a boat program where many of our donors donate boats to us to be used with the students.
Okay. I just had a few questions I jotted down as you were talking. What other Florida counties are you in?
We are currently in, I'll start down south, Miami, Broward, Lee, Hillsborough, where is Big Cypress? Pinellas. We have 21 schools in the state. So we're in Pensacola, Pasco, Jacksonville, which would be Duval. Tallahassee, which is Leon, Panama City, Bay County, which is Panama City. Right. Jacksonville is Duval. So we're in a number of Florida counties.
In the north or northeast Florida, are you in anywhere other than Duval?
Northeast, Duval, which is Jacksonville. We are in
St. John's, Nassau.
No. Northwest
Bradford,
would Putnam. Be the Panhandle towards that way. Is there a program in Gainesville? There's a Gainesville program, which I can't think of the county. Alachua, thank you.
Okay.
Volusia and Orlando. Okay. Those would be the...
Volusia and Orange County?
Yes, yes, Orange County. Okay. Yes.
Okay. And then this is funded from a federal grant?
No, our program, we do have federal dollars for particular programs, but as you know, federal grants are program specific. So the Department of Labor grant, which is our vocational dollars, is, yes, a federal grant. Our major funders are Department of Juvenile Justice. We work in partnership with school districts, so we have school board contracts, and we have contracts with DSS, Department of Child and Family Services. So for students who have emotional.
Okay. Now on the you said on the FTE the split's 95-5.
Yes.
So you get 95.
Yes, ma'am.
And we get 5.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And let's see. And the transportation, we provide the transportation or what?
Typically, you provide the transportation, and I should also say that 95-5 is not a confirmed number. That is negotiated if we decide that we will place a program here. That is the typical range, but we have anywhere from 85 to 95% split. And then transportation, that all depends on whether or not we are mingled with an existing program, so that there's economy of scale. So if you have an alternative program and you want to transport the kids on the same bus so that they're not on the bus with the non-alternative students, then that is typically how we operate there. So if we go into a high school or a middle school that's under enrolled and we have one wing of that building, then typically the students would ride your transportation to us. In some programs we have our own buses and transport our own students, but that would be a part of whatever.
And when you get to a county, say like Alachua or us or something in a comparable size, like how many students are we talking about you wanting to?
This particular program, in the legislative language, we are looking at 44 to 50 students. And I think the legislation comes up with that as a percentage of the at-risk numbers that are in state database. We didn't necessarily prescribe the number.
Okay, and I have one last question, and then I'll let the rest of the board do it. On the counseling, you said you're licensed mental health counselors or whatever. Now, do y'all work within the confines of the Clay County School Board policy as far as any kind of counseling and so forth?
Yes, ma'am. As a matter of fact, all of our staff are licensed and certified, be it a mental health counselor or teacher. They are all background screened at level 2, so they pass Jessica Lumpsford background screening. They're drug tests, and once they're employed, they are random drug tests to ensure, you know, that they don't indulge in anything illegal. And if they by chance have an offense as a staff member, they have to report in 24 hours as they would be with a public school employee.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't mean to have too many, but it was just some things I jotted down as they were talking.
Through the chair to Ms. Studdard, just some points of clarification, because I spoke to the CEO who emphatically shared with me that the split, the FTE split, it's negotiable from the board. So
Okay.
whatever you agree to is exactly what he would agree to, more than likely. So whatever other counties have done, we could use it as a guide, but it's only as a guide.
Okay.
And then also transportation, if you said that you did not want to provide transportation at all, you wanted to stay out of that business, he would work around that as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other
I mean to be
questions?
misleading on that. We do, if I did not say that, we
Do
do.
what?
I said I did not mean to be misleading on that. We do provide transportation.
No.
Okay, great.
I'm just trying to figure it out. It's first
Yes, ma'am. It's a discussion.
Any other questions?
I do. I have
Ms.
a
Kerekes.
question.
Hi.
How successful is it as far as the students staying in? If you get them and they're in 9th grade, are they following through the full 4 years and graduating? Are they dropping out? Do they want to come back to their home schools? How successful is it in that respect?
Well, that is also a school board decision. Many of our students, or our contracts, assign the students to us for 1 academic year. The way our program is designed is that, and Rebecca has operated a program, I also allow her to speak to that, but they worked their way through the program and the rank system. So you earn your way back to your traditional school, be it behavior, academic, meetings with your probation officer if that's the case, and then you're able to go back to your traditional school and graduate with your cohort. We are SACS accredited, so if they want to graduate with us, that is an option. But typically, for lack of a better term, we get them turned around, fix them up.
1 year.
And, yeah, 1 year. And now students do return because, you know, unfortunately, sometimes if you cut up for 10 years and you go back to your school, although you think you fixed yourself, you still have that persona that you're working with, so it's a challenge to assimilate back in as a new person, and we find that, you know, they get a little frustrated and come back, and we help them readjust and, you know, work through the process. But Rebecca may want to speak to that.
Well, to add to that, one of the biggest differences between our programs and a traditional school is the setting, and that's the physical space of the setting. So you'll find that most of our students are very, very successful while they're with us, because we generally average between 30 to 50 students in a building at a time, where your traditional high school could have, you know, up to thousands depending on how big your district is. So that's one of the benefits that I have found running programs that the kids really adapt to well, and it makes them not want to leave due to that comfortability that they have, knowing that they're going to go into a much larger space and those relationships. So going back to your original question is how successful are they? The programs that I've run, we've actually had longer stays. We've had up to 2 years at a time to get them caught up. And when they're it seems to be when they're with us longer and they're allowed to transition at the start of a school year versus the middle of the year, and they can start fresh, they're much more successful. So,
Ms. Skilton.
You mentioned about you operating within a wing of a high school. Is that the model that you're proposing for Clay County, or are you proposing that you would have your own facility?
We have not proposed a model. This is our first discussion as well, aside from the telephone calls that were made. So it would be what best fit the county. I will say that it is a good model because the students still feel as if they belong to Clay County.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
Well, we thank you for your time this evening. I look forward to speaking with you and hopefully working with you on
Thank
this
you
project.
very much.
Just a few follow-up comments. Obviously, you've all heard of PACE. We have that for our young ladies and everything. This would be a similar type program. I know what you're thinking. FT dollars.
If it costs money.
Well,
I understand. And tonight, remember, tonight is for information purposes. We wanted to present it to you to let you know what's going on. We're continuing to do research. You asked some good questions that we still have hanging out there, which is location. That's what we're looking at. Do we have a facility that we could work with AMI Transportation? As Dr. Hatcher said in our conversation with several folks, is we have a lot of flexibility to negotiate that. But let me just make one comment about that, the dollars. So we're talking about a program 44 to 50 this first year. These are a lot of students also who, and I like the way the gentleman made the comment from the Ford group, that you already have some students who have dropped out even though they're physically showing up every day. These are those at-risk students that we are going to be in jeopardy of losing down the road. And so here's an opportunity to investigate. We've not obviously committed anything, but to investigate how this program can work with those types of students and hopefully get them back on track and everything. So it is an investment in some dollars into these young people. So I just want to leave you with that thought. We will gather this information. We'll get back with senior staff and then certainly be willing to talk with you folks as we nail down a few of your questions there, okay? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next item is superintendent update.
Thank you, Ms. McKinnon. Got a couple of things I'd just like to mention to you guys tonight. First, I'd like to introduce you to our newest senior staff member, Ms. Susan Legutko. Susan, when you stand and wave. She's been a great addition to our team, and we're very happy to have her in Clay County. She is just absolutely sharp as a tack and is already helping us move forward. So thank you for being with us, Ms. Legutko, and you'll enjoy getting to know her as you have opportunity to stop by and chat. It's been a busy month. We've gone through accreditation. We've gotten our new senior staff named. Got 6 principals retiring. A couple of them have come to the county office. There's still a lot of movement going around, but a lot of very positive things happening. And one of those positive things was our outcomes on our latest 5-year accreditation. So I'd like to ask Ms. Cornegay if she would be so kind just to hit the highlights with you guys. Most of you were here for that, and it's probably more for the public tonight and maybe just a little bit of bragging, but go ahead.
Good evening. As he said, it has been a busy month, and we started the month on March the 1st with the accreditation team from Advanced Ed with us. And they left us at the end of the day on the 4th with just a summary of the exit report. With the actual report, we would receive the second week of April, which will give us a very detailed analysis of their findings by standard and indicator. So we'll look forward to sharing that. We'll be posting that on our website for the community as well and let you know when that's available. Give us a lot of information as we think about school and district improvement that we'll utilize in the future. But I wanted to just highlight the areas that they noted in their exit report. They left us with 2 powerful practices, looking at student performance and our college and career readiness data, student engagement, instructional quality, and the quality of our curriculum, really getting into the schools, visiting classrooms, talking with teachers and with school leaders. Found that our instructional design was very strong and definitely a powerful practice. We adopted that intentional teaching framework, and it has been something that we've really focused on K-12, and it was clearly evident in their visit that that instructional model is certainly engaging kids more in the classroom, and that we're seeing the quality of instruction as the design indicates in terms of the guided practice and modeling very evident. So that was something that we certainly celebrate, as well as, can you believe it, business and community partnerships. It's a reoccurring theme in this district, and they noted that, you know, we were talking earlier about transforming business and civic engagement and how it's been really noted in Clay County that that is certainly a powerful practice, and it was noted by them as well. So we celebrate those things, and in fact, the instructional design component, which is representing standards 3 and 5, which are the larger 2 standards, we actually well exceeded the national average in that area, so we are very pleased with that. 2 common themes that they noted. It was evident from the minute they walked in the district that we had a very clear vision and mission and motto. Innovate, engage, and empower was everywhere. And it wasn't that it was just words to them. People could actually articulate what that meant and how we are innovating, how we are engaging kids and as well as parents, and also empowering. And the other thing that they found throughout their visits within the schools, talking with staff, was fiscal responsibility. We have strong policies and procedures in place that govern our expenditures, and that was noted in their common themes as well that they heard. The two areas of improvement, one of them was a consistent grading and reporting practices, and this is something that we were quite aware existed because we give a lot of autonomy to teachers who do a great job in this area, but as we think about our new standards, developing more common practices so that an A in one room represents the same A in another classroom are things that we have to look at. What's happening right now is through the professional learning communities that our teachers are engaged in, they're talking a lot more about those practices, using rubrics and things that give us more of a common playing field when we're thinking about student performance. Where we have it most evident is with our K-2 standards-based report card. As much as it's been difficult transition, it really was for the purposes of giving parents and kids very specific feedback. And so it was an area that they highlighted that we had that in K-2. They saw that with that report card giving us that consistency, but was an area that they'd like for us to look at as we in the other grade levels as well. And then also we know that we are going to continue to expand student access and infrastructure within our buildings to ensure that all of our kids have equitable access to technology. And we have a digital classroom plan that was just adopted with some additional funding from the state to help us with that. So we'll continue to move in that direction. So we'll wait for the full report and share that with you when we get it. But I want to thank everyone who participated in that because I think it bodes well for Clay County that we were fully accredited at the end of the visit, and we look forward to continuing our progress and our successes in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cornegay. Is that it, Superintendent? Okay. Next item is C2. This was proposed allocation changes for 14-15 that was pulled by the staff, but before we get to that, we have 2 yellow cards, and so our first speaker is Robert Morris.
Hello, my name is Robert Morris. My address is already on record.
Okay.
Mr. Superintendent, Madam Chairman, and school board members, I am a 5th grade student at OPE, and I am unhappy with what you are doing to my school. When I came back from winter break, I was told my ES teacher left and I was not getting a new one. I was scared because I didn't know if I was going to have it, when I was going to have it, and how it was going to affect my daily schedule. I used to have ES every day for math with about 10 other 5th graders. Now I have ES once a week with 25 5th and 6th graders combined. So now that my ES is only 1 day a week, sometimes my regular classes will get ahead of me on the day I am at ES, which makes me have to catch up. Also, with ES being only once a week, there are weeks I have no ES at all. Because of school holidays, if I am sick or my teacher is out, I also have no ES. With this change in my schedule, and next year looking like it will be the same, I'm upset and sad that I will not be getting the advanced classes I enjoy. I just found out today that next year I will be losing my art teacher and will have no art at all. I have been at OPE since kindergarten, and I used to have art, music, library, and PE as my resources. Since 3rd grade, I have had no music and now next year no art. That is 2 resources I have lost. I thought that my public school was where I was going to learn from my teachers and have resource classes that allow me to learn outside the textbook and learn creative ideas. I hope that you, the school board members, would come to my school, talk to my fellow students and teachers, and see for yourself how these budget cuts are truly affecting the students you see as numbers. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Our next speaker is David Denemark.
Hello, my name is David Denmark. My address is on file. I am 10 years old. I am in 5th grade and go to Orange Park Elementary. In December, my ES math teacher informed us that she was leaving to go to a new school. I was not very happy, but I knew I could do nothing about it. Over the Christmas break, I was curious about who my new teacher would be. When I got back, I was not happy. There was not a new teacher, so we had no ES for a few weeks. Then the math kids joined the ES science teacher, Mrs. Roth. Now we only go on Mondays, but before we used to go every day. That caused her to have a double load, and that put stress on Mrs. Roth. That's not right. So now, on the rest of the week, we go to Miss White's math class. This is not an ES math, and this is not challenging. All the ES math kids are relearning math from 3rd grade. It's like taking away something you're so used to, which is wrong. So just because one teacher's gone causes the whole system to go down, which causes problems. Like Mrs. Williams had 11 kids in just one 5th grade math class, and now Mrs. Roth has 11 extra kids, which adds up to 25. Another problem is that classes on Mondays can't learn anything new. So I asked my friends Colin and Alex what they do, and they said during reading class, the students read for 45 minutes straight and reviewed projects. This is not my teacher's fault who made these changes. But the biggest problem is art. My art teacher is Mr. Comptor. He has been my art teacher since kindergarten, and now art is being cut. He is a really good art teacher and is going to be without a job. He just had a child, and how is he going to take care of his family? This makes me disappointed in my school principal. If this was your problem, I'm pretty sure you would be irate. I suggest to you, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Golden rule. In conclusion, school is a great place to learn, enjoy teachers, art, media, and friends. Just one question for everyone who is in leadership. If art is gone, what's next? Mrs. Callahan, our amazing librarian, is going to lose her job too? Our school has many gifts, and these job cuts are taking them away. Thank you for your time, and I pray that this will be fixed.
Superintendent.
Both of you men speak well. It's hard to believe that I can listen to both of you and think that you're not getting a good education. You're very articulate. My kids, for the first young gentleman, get ES or gifted once a week too. So you get the same thing as a superintendent's child. Not that it's perfect, not that we wouldn't love for you to have a little more, but that's not out of line with what we do in this district. And I would hope that the parents don't in any way encourage their children to take a dig publicly at their principal, since OPE is a program that you all volunteer to be at and sign a document at the beginning of each year, both the students and the parents, that they're going to support OPE and the administration. We're all in this together, so I just want to focus on all of us staying together as we row the boat. Thank you.
All right. So with that, item C2 is proposed allocation changes for 2014-15, which was pulled by staff. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Ms. Condon and a second by Ms. Gilhousen. Discussion.
Okay, I'll start.
I guess
the budget this year is probably worse than any that I've lived through in the over 22 years that I've served on this board. we're in a situation where we're getting to the point where, as board members, at this point, I don't know what choice we have as far as trying to save some money, but I want to tell you how I really feel about this. Tonight when we started the meeting, I thought how ironic this is that Tynes Elementary Chorus, who were excellent, in recognition of March Music Month, and I loved it. I also loved it a couple years ago when I went to a patriotic music program at Grove Park Elementary, out on the sidewalk outside the school. They don't have a music teacher anymore. Hadn't in a couple years. Now I see in here on the sheets, and the two young men said it, that OPE is now losing an art teacher. I didn't even realize they didn't have a music teacher. This really brings me back to the early 90s when I was president of PTA at OPE, back when it was the little neighborhood school. And when the school board at that point met down in Green Cove Springs in the little room, I was president of the PTA, and my board and I went down there to the school board meeting. Mr. Tynes was the superintendent. And we pleaded with that school board to please build us a cafetorium. We were the only elementary school in Clay County that didn't have one. We had no place to put on a musical production or a play. Well, I didn't realize what a miracle it was at the time, knowing about the 5-year plan now, but the next year we got a cafetorium built, and then we raised the money to buy a piano to put in it that's still sitting in that cafetorium as far as I know. Music and art are near and dear to my heart. My daughter was in art my oldest daughter was in art all through school and high school and even in college, and went into graphic arts in college and graduated in that. Music, when you're looking at that versus a, quote, academic classroom teacher, certainly I can see, and I know the years have been in the past where we've had to ask each principal to cut a resource teacher, and it was up to the principal, knowing that school and the population and the attitude and the feel for the school, they got to decide. But it is alarming to me to see some schools have outstanding music programs, art teachers, PE teachers. Mr. Van Zant, was talking about his students. Well, down in Keystone, they've got music and PE and art, and a lot of schools do. But there's schools that are going to be losing art teachers or music teachers next year, and just trying to figure out what you can do. I know on one of the things that was Grove Park and Montclair are going to be sharing MediaTek, is it? MediaTek, is that the title? And it's going to share between two schools. And I was wondering if maybe there would be some way to do the same thing perhaps with an art teacher or a music teacher, maybe because of the budget constraints at this point, if we couldn't somehow arrange to share a music teacher between two schools or an art teacher so that all of the students would be exposed. I mean, the smaller schools, because those resource teachers are based, on population, the larger schools get all the resources and fine. But these smaller schools, they can't arrange for art and music because the push is on for technology. The testing, we're being driven to death with these tests, and they've got to know how to use the computer, so we must have technology in the schools. I mean, it seems like we're being pushed and pushed and pushed, and you're sick of it, I'm sick of it, I'm sure this board's sick of it, but we're going to have to get really creative on this. I wish it's too late now, but and I would suggest this for future years, that before these allocations come to us in March, I suggest very strongly that we have an open public workshop about allocations so that staff can tell us and the public what you're doing, why you're doing it, why if the budget is in, hopefully not this critical a condition ever again, but at least have some explanation. We have a lot of parents who are calling and don't understand, and the children, obviously the two young men who spoke tonight, don't understand. And honestly, I'm sitting here thinking, I mentor over at Grove Park, and there's other schools that don't have the resources that they would have if they were in another school. We should have equality of offerings for all of our students throughout the county, and if it takes sharing or having a teacher do 2 schools, but we may have to be really creative on this. But I just want to go on the record publicly of saying I am just not happy not having music and art and these resources in our schools. We need to have well-rounded students, and they certainly have to have their academics, but we need to have these other things too. I think one of our elementary schools is going to have a Spanish teacher next year. I remember 15 or 20 years ago saying, gee, I wish we could have Spanish in the elementary schools. When I had my newcomer service for 30 years, there were so many Hispanic speaking people in the county, and I thought, gosh, I wish I'd taken Spanish in school instead of French, because I never get to use French. Southern's merci beaucoup didn't go very well anyway. But I think that we need to listen out and be able to offer these things that the parents want. And I know these principals want these things too, but their hands are tied. I mean, they're doing the very best they can with very limited flexibility there. But that's all I'm going to say. I just wanted to publicly express, I'm just most unhappy about this. But I don't know any way around it with the budget the way it is right this minute. But I do hope we have a workshop before we do this again.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Studdard. One second. Actually, I was going to call on Ms. Adams first, because I believe, Ms. Adams, you were the one that pulled this to discussion. I apologize.
Well, first of all, I think we've jumped the gun a bit, if I'm not mistaken. We're talking about the 14-15 allocation changes, the summary sheets. I want to speak to it first. I pulled it because I had to make a tweak that our HR department found. One of the positions that was being deleted is a person that's retiring, but the retirement date is for the end of April and not the end of this month. So we had to go back in behind the scenes and make sure that that date was correct, because certainly we didn't want to delete the position prior to the retirement. The second one was we moved a position from the instructional support division or department in the instructional division to the IS department, which was the technical specialist. And anytime we change a cost center like that, we have to show the move. Now, there's federal funds, so there's no financial impact there, but again, that was a change to this summary sheet. So that's why I moved it to discussion, so you'd know we had those 2 changes. So I believe that's the first item up, and then I'm ready to talk about if you want to go ahead and get this off the table, then I'll be happy to talk about the allocation package.
I move approval.
I think we
already have that.
Got a
Is there
motion
any
and a
other
second?
discussion? Yeah, we already have a motion
have a
for
motion
approval
and a second? Okay.
yes.
Let's vote then.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay.
Excuse me, Madam Chairman.
Yes.
Ms. Bush, my vote mechanism's not coming up. Is it not supposed to? There we go. Thank you.
Mine's not coming up either.
I think it's just slow.
Okay. You're on the record. All right. The next item on the agenda is item D2, which is the 2015-2016 proposed staff allocations. We have several yellow cards on this, so I'd like to go ahead and start with those. The first one is Abigail Bower, hope I said that right, Abigail, who is a 3rd grade student.
Hello, my name is Abigail Bohr. I am in 3rd grade at Orange Park Elementary. When I was in kindergarten, I had all the resources. In first grade, they got rid of music. Music used to be my favorite subject. Art is my favorite subject now, and they're getting rid of it too. I like art because we can use our own creativity and put it on a piece of paper. I have many friends who like art too. If we lose art, we will all be upset. We don't have time for art in our classroom. In art, we can learn things about social studies, math, and science. I would appreciate it if we would stop losing resources because it takes away time from fun, enriching activities. When I grow up, I want to be an art teacher at OPE. Now I won't be able to because there won't be art. This is why I think we should stop taking away resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Abigail. Okay, our next speaker is Shanna Bower. I believe this is Mom.
Good evening. My name is Shana Boer. My address is 1600 Backwater Drive, and I'm speaking to you again as a parent. I am concerned with the allocations for next year with losing some VE teachers. I am the parent of an ESE child, and I am just so concerned. We always ask teachers to do more with less, and they love our children, and they will bend over backwards to try to meet their needs. But there's also the situation that they have IEPs. Those are legal documents. And how is our county going to meet those legal documents? Because those children are entitled to those minutes. And so when we look at, so many things are necessary. They really are. But even with, and speaking as a teacher, even taking a 20-hour ESE class doesn't give me the qualifications that the VE teacher has. They have specialized training to help meet the needs, and it's a team effort. I know that my son's teachers are very grateful that it's a team effort because sometimes we're all in there shaking our heads going, I don't know what to do next. And so I'm really scared for what the future holds for inclusion teachers because I'm liable with teaching inclusion. I'm concerned as a parent, and I want to make sure that our county stays in compliance. So with anything that we can do to help make sure that ESE gets what they need, I think that's what we should do. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Tracy Shannon.
Hello, my name is Tracy Shannon. I live at 1426 Starboard Court. I've been a dedicated teacher in Clay County since 1994. Parenting my two gifted daughters inspired me to become a teacher and an advocate for gifted children. It's a common and understandable misconception that gifted students will do well on their own no matter what. They are thought of as the ones we don't have to worry about. This is simply not the case. Gifted kids have brains that are wired differently than most children. They learn differently and therefore have different educational needs. Gifted students need gifted services. They are often frustrated by the pacing of regular education classes. Some underachieve. They don't buy into school because they found that it doesn't meet their needs as learners. Some feel that something's wrong with them because they don't fit in. Some make high grades for years without having to work at learning, and then find themselves in junior high or high school without the strategies for handling coursework that becomes increasingly difficult. In the proposed allocations for next year, my position at Montclair has been cut to 0.6. My students need full services for me to educate, know, love, and advocate for them. I need 5 days to be a trusted part of the school community. When I was at my school 5 days a week, I was able to confer with teachers as they needed every day. I provided support to teachers, parents, and students, and helped identify students who qualified for services. With every day that gifted teachers are taken away from our schools, services become weaker and more sporadic.
for our identified gifted students and for those who have yet to be identified. When I began at MCE 3.5 years ago, there were 13 students. Now there are 40. What's the reason for the growth? It's because there are more students being identified, staffed, and served. There's a full-time program at the school, or at least there was until January. If we don't provide schools with full-time gifted teachers, those schools will have underserved populations. Gifted students are everywhere. We need to serve them where they are. We need to be there to find them where they are. Gifted kids won't be fine anyway. Doing fine isn't a goal for a learning impaired child. It shouldn't be a goal for a gifted student. A 5-day allocation says, these children deserve a real teacher, someone who is part of the team, someone who will be here tomorrow, someone who does important, valuable work for our children. 3 days says, we have to serve these kids legally, but we can get by with doing just this much. They'll be fine anyway. I'm a cheap investment for the district. My colleagues and I are true bargains. Gifted education is critical. I ask you on behalf of my students and the gifted students of Clay County to keep gifted allocations from being cut. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker is Miss Liz Crane.
Good evening, Liz Crane. You have my address for the record. In the spirit of the FSA exam that was given today for our 3rd and 4th graders today, I challenge you to answer this CCSB allocation 2-part question. Part 1, how could the district cut the budget and increase the fund balance? A, sell the district for $1 to a charter school company and let them figure it out. B, have daily bake sales selling cookies for $1,000 a cookie, or reduce instructional allocations by approximately 80 positions. Part 2, please pick from the following details to support your answer from above. A reduction of 80 allocations would equate to approximately over $4 million in savings. B, I think charter schools are great. Or C, teachers make awesome cookies. If you answered C for Part 1 and A for Part 2, you would get full credit for responding to this question. On May 1st, 2014, the school board had a workshop regarding our current budget. At that time, we were below the infamous 3%. The board instructed the superintendent to present a budget that would bring the financial ratio to 2.5%, or $967,000 in cuts. To bring the financial ratio to 3%, over $2 million in cuts would be necessary. Today, you're being presented with an allocation package that reduces the number of instructional personnel by approximately 80 positions. This equates to approximately over $4 million at $55,000 for salaries and bennies per allocation. Looks like you found your way to fund your fund balance by cutting teachers. As the former CCA president, this is like deja vu for me. In 2009, the board voted to cut 1 resource teacher from every elementary school. Carol? 2 months, I was responding to crying teachers, wondering if they were going to have a job or not. I warned the board that they were premature in their vote, being that the legislature had not finished their session. In May 2009, a miracle occurred. The legislature came through and the teachers were reinstated. The school board had cried wolf when they voted to cut those positions. Are you crying wolf again? Assuming tonight's vote is in favor of the proposed allocation package, my school will lose 1 music teacher, 1 ESE inclusion teacher, and 5 general education teachers. While I understand that when enrollment drops, we have to think about how many teachers we have, but this is ridiculous. Since the allocation package was published, my teachers are angry, scared, worried, and yes, crying, because they are not only scared that they might not have a job for next year, but also about the students. What will happen to them? Will they be in overcrowded classrooms? Will our ESE students be served fully? With all of our students continuing to get the same level of education that they have been getting, what about our music program? My friend Peggy Pruitt, who taught music at Ridgeview, would say, Crane, I always know when your kids are here. They sing out of tune. I will spare you my singing voice. The word on the street is that parents are already talking about withdrawing their children because of loss of programs and teachers. They are talking about enrolling in the new charter school next year or enrolling them in virtual school. This would lead to further budgetary problems for the school system. The legislature has not finished their session. They are just getting started. Both the House and the Senate have budget proposals that increase funding by 4%. This vote, like the 2000 vote, is premature. I'm asking that you direct district staff to evaluate this allocation package and bring it back to you in the form of a workshop that has been suggested. Families move to Clay County so that their children can attend Clay County schools. We want them to continue to do that. Our district is ranked 8th in teacher VAM scores. Will that
Ms.
be the
Crane,
case?
can you please wrap it up? Your 3 minutes are up.
I was on my last sentence. Thank you.
Okay.
Our district is ranked 8th in teacher VAM scores. Will that be the case next year without all these great teachers?
Thank you. And then our last speaker on this item is Ms. Renalee Paiva.
Good evening, Renalee Paiva. I'm speaking on behalf of the CCEA. I'm a little confused at the moment because I have had numerous conversations with Mrs. Adams and Mrs. McCabe on this situation, and I'm pretty well been assured that these cuts are going to be attrition. These cuts are not affecting people, but I'm a little disenchanted by the people that preceded me tonight. So I'm thinking that sometimes these cuts are affecting people and they're just not allocations that are either attrition or retirements or etc. So I am disturbed by what I've heard in the cuts. I will say that the CCEA is extremely disturbed about the resource allocations, and I did share that with Mrs. Adams. Elementary schools, all schools in the state of Florida are under huge high-stake testing stress. The last thing we want to do to these children is take away the resources. PE, music, all that stuff, and I know we have to have the technology to learn that, and art. It doesn't matter how big a school is, all those kids need that, and I think it is morally our stand to give it to them. And I don't know where you're going to get it, and I think we can find some dollars somewhere. I'm certainly sure CCA will help to talk about this or where it's going, but we cannot continually take music, art, and PE away from our elementaries. It is irresponsible to do so. I also want to remind the school board, if in fact these 80 cuts does generate the fund balance to where it's acceptable, that we cannot continually not budget for teacher increases. We cannot continually, we did it in the past, we budgeted it, we put it in the budget, teacher increases. That is not a shock for you. Teachers cannot continually absorb insurance increases and cost of living increases. And they have in the past 8 years, except for what was allocated last year by the governor. That didn't come out of the fund balance, didn't come under the general fund. That came directly from the governor to the teachers. So the CCEA wants to keep in mind we are 8th in the state. You can't talk out of both sides of your mouth. If you're proud of your teachers, as you say so in your school and your website, then it is it's ethical and prudent for you to reward us for that ranking. After all, it is pay for performance. We cannot continually perform if you are not able to simply pay us for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Paiva. I'm going to bring this back to the board now. So I'm going to entertain a motion on item D2.
I'll move approval.
I have an approval by Ms. Condon. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And I have a second by Ms. Gilhousen. Discussion.
I would just like to start. I'd like to say none of us feel good about this. All of us, I'm sure, read the allocations when they came out with the same sick feeling in their stomach because either we have had or have children in the schools. Right now I'm the only one who does, but that doesn't mean that all of us don't care. And specifically regarding gifted education, I think that there is an opportunity for us once again to contact our legislators, both in Tallahassee and in the federal government, that gifted students are not recognized the same way that other ESE students are in our country, and therefore there is not additional funding provided for them to have resources where other ESE kids are given those resources, and that does affect staffing levels. And that's unfortunate, because I would agree with the gifted teacher. I have 2 children of my own. One is gifted with learning disabilities, and they could not be more different than each other in the way their brains work. So I feel bad about this. I was assured by senior staff when I asked my questions that in the event that our numbers in our classroom averages do not meet the requirements, that we will add back staffing as needed in specific schools. And I would hope that in the event that Tallahassee comes through, or that we don't have our enrollment numbers decrease as we are projected to have, and those projections are 18 months out. So we have to provide those numbers to Tallahassee 18 months in advance, and that's what they tell us we're going to get our funding on. And I don't know about you, but I can't predict the future 18 months in advance very well, and neither can they, but that's what we have to deal with. So I just feel sick about it, but it's what we've been dealt.
Thank you, Ms. Condon. Ms. Karakis?
You got it. Yeah, this allocation package saddened me too, and I talked to Ms. Adams, and I understand what staff is thinking when they brought this to us, that the superintendent brought a budget to us last year with a projected $1.8 million based on the students that we thought we'd have, which we in fact did have, and didn't get the funding for it. Not only did we not get that 1.8, but we got 2-point-something million less. So between that major shortfall, they have made drastic cuts in December, and every month these proposed allocation changes have cut more to try to keep our head above water. So I understand this package completely, why it came to us. I'm not happy about it. I don't care for it. I would prefer, like Mrs. Studdard said, that we take a breather, that we have a workshop, and we look and see where else can we find these cuts. Can we cut maybe somewhere at the district staff instead of in the classroom? Can we cut something other than the teachers in the class for the kids? Because I think we all believe we have to prioritize the classroom, and every decision should be, is this in the best interest of our children? And I could not agree more with Mrs. Studdard. I wish this district had a policy that every elementary school would have art, music, and PE, regardless of what other resources they could have. And I know that's all a funding issue, and it's a pipe dream, it's a wish, because we don't have the money. I understand that. And I do know that if this is approved, when September, or actually August rolls along, and then the schools are fortunate enough to have too many kids in their classes, and we have more than we need, we'll be able to reinstate these allocations. I know that that's how it will work. That's how it's worked other years. But I'm not happy with it. I just can't see, is Coppergate losing 8, and Grove Park losing, some of theirs, and OPE's art teacher. It's just. But I understand it. I do get it. This just saddens me, and especially everything since December. Every one of those proposed allocation changes that have come to us with these drastic cuts. I don't even know how many. Mr. Van Zandt, how many have we cut since December?
Basically, unless a class was already beyond class size in December, if a teacher left mid-year at the end of the first semester, we did not add back another person. We have not cut any people.
Right.
Okay? And I know that might not sound great, but if you're the person in the job and you started last August with a job in the Clay County School District, and you still have a job in the Clay County School District, there is something to be said for that. I'm sure your family appreciates that financial support. Now, moving forward, we typically have about 250 teachers a year retire in a TRID. We've proposed about 80 less allocations. So everybody that has come to work, done a good job, will be offered a job again. And again, we've always worked. I don't think that any principal that's wanted to recommend a teacher back, and we have more annual contract teachers than we've ever had, has not been able to do that, and we haven't been able to work through certification, work through out of field for a little while till we find somebody a position. It was mentioned earlier about, do you want me to talk? I'm
Absolutely.
sorry.
It was
I'm sorry, I'm answering more than your
I
question.
appreciate you. Yeah, go ahead.
About teacher raises. Hey, I sat here for about a decade as beginning teacher salary went from $25,000 a year to $38,000, and we had some great years. We had some increased funding, and it's never been my goal to build a huge bank account. It is my goal to have a little bit bigger bank account than we do right now, so we don't bounce a check. And we haven't, but we're kind of close. I get, first day as superintendent of schools, I met the director of school finance for the Commissioner of Education. She came and sought me out. Mr. Van Zandt, you have a very low fund balance. Yes, ma'am. And I was one of a few, and that number has grown. It hasn't been the easiest times. In Clay County, when everybody else was really cutting their allocations in 09 and 10 and 11, we were doing everything humanly possible to meet class size, which we have every year. We've never been out of compliance. We've never spent one penny of your tax dollars for being out of class size. Those class sizes are pretty specific and pretty low. 18, that's a great ratio. 3 years ago, I walked through my oldest son's third grade class. He had 15 kids in there. I said, where's the rest of the kids? This is all of them. I mean, we staffed ourselves silly to meet class size, classroom by classroom. We were ahead of the curve on that. We've always prided ourselves on doing what's right for students. In fact, a lot of people probably don't realize that Naval Air Station Jacksonville is one of 4 compassionate assignment military bases in the United States where if somebody has an ES kid, gifted, off the spectrum, learning disability, whatever, usually the more pronounced disabilities, they give those people a compassionate assignment in the Navy to Naval Air Station Jacksonville and tell them to go buy or rent a house in Clay County because they'll take care of your kids. We're known for that. So I think we need to just look at this a little more comprehensively in the whole package. Nobody likes to provide anybody's kid, anybody's student, less services. But we have to maintain some kind of fund balance. In the last couple of years, we've been not quite meeting the state standard on that, which is a minimum. So the budget we present tonight, if the allocation package we're presenting tonight will allow us to go ahead and start reappointing teachers and at least cutting down on a lot of that anxiety and keeping us on our glide path to present you a budget. However, that doesn't mean that if we have a huge windfall of funds that we haven't anticipated, it's March, into March. Session will go through May. Right now, the House and the Senate, I spent most of last week in Tallahassee, are $4 billion, be like boy, $1 billion apart in their budget proposals. And if any of y'all want to lay hard green money on what it might come out to be, I don't think that'd be a wise bet. We just really don't know right now. We don't know what the impact in the Florida retirement system is going to hit us with this year, but it always hits us with something. Health insurance has tended to go up. What's it, 98, 2015? For 17 years I've sat here and it's never gone down. So we're presenting you something that we know that we can at least get to the state minimum fund balance with tonight. I'm not opposed to adding back. Somebody shows me the money, we'll bring you more allocations, okay? So don't, I know this package isn't the prettiest thing you've ever seen, but it's one that I'm confident that we can grow from. It is an appropriate starting point with as many unknowns as we have at the moment. That's
Thank
my
you,
2
Mr.
cents.
Van Zandt.
Madam Chairman, I have
Yes.
2 questions for Mr. Van Zandt. Mr. Van Zandt, are the enrollment projections for next year more students or less students than this year?
Go ahead.
Mrs. Adams.
Or somebody?
Would you like to answer
Please
that
forgive
question?
me.
I just wondered if it's supposed to go up, down, or if we're going to just be status quo.
I'm so glad you answered that, but I have a lot to say about this. So I don't want to stop y'all from your discussion. So if I could hold the answer to that question, because it's not as simple as what you've asked for my whole thing, then I'll be happy to answer it.
Okay.
Okay. If y'all would finish your thing, just...
Okay, if you won't forget, because I was just sitting here
won't
wondering, are we going to be status quo?
I
All
won't
right, I have
forget.
the second question I'll ask Mr. Van Zandt, and if you want to go right to it. This allocation package we have here, that for next year, how much is this going to save us and be able to put back toward the fund balance? How much are you saving with this?
Somebody said it might have been Ms. Crane. It is about 80 fewer allocations.
No, I mean, talking about in dollars.
That's about $4 million. About 20 positions is about $1 million.
$4 million?
Yeah.
I was going to speak to that, too.
Miss Adams is dying to talk.
She's just dying to talk. Well, maybe the chairman will let you talk
Hold
sometime.
off our discussion until after Ms. Adams.
Do you want to? Would you guys like to have Miss Adams speak first?
Yes,
and then we'll
I want-
finish our
I want Ms.
discussion?
Adams
Okay,
to get
Miss
to
Adams,
talk.
you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, we've had a lot of discussion about this, and I've heard how people are disappointed in this package, and I have to tell you my feelings are a tad hurt, although not surprised, because I have to say that there's a lot that has gone into the development of this, and to one of the board members' point, it started last fall, okay? So just, if you'll bear with me, public and the board, I just kind of want to start at the beginning and just remind people how we get to where we are today, okay? How are we funded? How are we funded here in Clay County? Does the legislature just make up a number and send us this bagged sack of money to Miss Legutko and we have it? Not exactly. What they do is they say they base it on a base student allocation. So that means you got to have the student and then they give you the money, sort of, okay? So that's how it works. It's based on the number of students that you have. It's based on that. So let me be clear about how this document was developed. The teacher support and administrative allocations, which we hadn't even gotten to yet, are based on the number of students we think we're going to have next year. Not the number you've got sitting in your school right now, but what we think we're going to have next year. So we have to look into this crystal ball, okay? So where do these numbers come from? Well, it starts with asking the principals in the fall. We send out to old school, send out a piece of paper. Tell us how many kids you think you're going to keep in a grade, how many you're going to roll up. Real old school stuff. We get the numbers back. I go back in and look at them. I'll check their FTE, kind of make sure they're not padding them, because believe it or not, principals will pad. They tell you they have more students than they do, and or they anticipate, or maybe some students feel like 3 students when it's just 1. And so we do all that math. The principals did a great job this year giving us their numbers, okay? So we first started making out what I call this matrix, all right? And that's every school, every grade, every number that we think we're going to have. That's every kid now, kindergarten through 12th grade, ESE, self-contained, ES, everything, all right? So we put it on there, and then we have to wait because the state has what they call FTE models that they want us to send our projection in with. So we have to take what I refer to as the belly button count, because that's the number of students, and we have to insert those numbers into this model. And Mr. Hendrick over in the IT department takes the lead on that. Well, imagine our surprise this year. You remember the third calculation we keep talking about, when fear struck the heart of Denise Adams, and they gave us this horribly wicked number of 34,707, okay? That's what they said we earned for October, when I knew we had 35,210, all right? So I'm like, what? And so then, on top of that, that made our model that they said we had to project to be, I think it was like 34,4 something. I mean, that is a dramatic drop from what we had projected even last year, which I think was 34,817. All right? So I'm just sharing this, not to brag about that I can actually recite these numbers, but just to show you that it's a guessing game and it's a we have to predict, we have to look to the future. Okay. So Mr. Hendrick and I, along with the instructional division, along with the help of Mr. Van Zant, we called everybody that would listen to us. We cussed and fussed. We looked back into our FTE, and we got them finally to jack that projection for us for next year up a little bit. Okay? So to answer your question, Ms. Studdard, thank you. Our total enrollment projection, FTE projection next year, is 34,947. That's as high as we could get it. Okay? Now last year it was 34,817. So that's not much different, but that's as much as they would allow us to project. But what you got to remember is that's every kid in every program. So that includes what I call above my green line and below my green line. Below my green line are those schools like the McKay vouchers, that's $399, our FLICA, our OPPAA, the charter school, PACE, Lighthouse Learning Center, not our regular school sites. Above the green line, it's 34,231 students in our regular brick and mortar schools, including CBA.
Would you repeat that again?
34,231, okay? Our regular schools, including CBA and Bannerman.
Does that include the charter school?
The charter school's below the green line.
Below the green line.
Okay. All right, so now we have this magic number, right? And it's divided among all these schools. Okay, so now we get to start staffing. Now we have to start looking at it. So I lob these numbers over to the instructional division, out to transportation, out to every division, and they start looking. Elementary looks at they go in and look by grade level, and they start looking at theirs for class size. Secondary does the same thing. Terry Roth, in speaking to the ESC teacher that spoke, she goes in and she looks at it by school, by program, the number of kids there, the number of kids they anticipate there, to try to predict what kind of how many teachers she's going to need next year. So, I mean, we don't just look at the document and put some numbers on there. I'm telling you, there's some hard analysis that goes into this. So, the thing that is disheartening, or the thing that hurts, is just what you've talked about tonight. The two main schools that I think are here are Copper Gate and Orange Park Elementary, and they've been impacted. They are two of the 6 elementary schools that now share their enrollment's barely breaking 500, and actually Coppergate and OPE are the two top. One, I think Coppergate's a whopping 502 for next year, and OPE is 508. Okay, that's small, folks. That's little. Our smallest school in that group is 379. Swimming pin. Okay? That is why your package looks as it does. Most of your schools in here were impacted very little. Now, to Mr. Van Zant or somebody's point up here too, the other thing we've gone in and looked at is because we were so aggressive in trying to meet class size, we you know, it's not a perfect world, and I know there's some classes out there are over, but we've got more classes that are way under class size than we do that are hitting it or over it. Okay, we just do, and that's going to happen when you're trying to meet those hard caps, because kids don't just line up and stop like, oh, we're full of second graders, you got to get on the road to the next school till you fill those classes up to 18. You know, it just doesn't work that way. So it's tricky is what I'm saying. So what instructional division did is they went back into and looked at resource allocations because things had gotten out of whack. I think Ms. Crane made an excellent point earlier tonight. We've suffered a crash, folks. For those of you who've been here back in 2007, 8 and 9, whenever the bottom fell out, and we had projected then, I think we missed it by like almost 1,000 kids. But we had been right on the tail of growing every year, picking up 1,000 kids or so. You know what? These allocation packages flew through the board meeting. I longed for those days. So why wasn't I deputy then? I mean, then it would have been easy. Easy peasy. But the point is that this reflects change, and I know it's hard and I know it's difficult, but I assure you, we are not trying to put teachers out on the street. The teacher that you love at your school at Orange Park Elementary, that resource teacher, I assure you that teacher's going to have a job in this district, provided that he wants to. I'm assuming he wants to work here. I think it's a he. And what we're trying to do is staff to a level that we can afford, because remember, we're funded based on the number of students, so staff to the level that we can afford, fill our classes up, and hopefully they're too full. I mean, that's what we're hoping for. And then next year, or this summer, Ms. Cornigan, Ms. Chastain, and all of them go to Mr. Van Zant and say, hey, we need to add resource teachers, we need to add kindergarten teachers, we need to add whatever kind of teachers that we need to add. But right now, we have to go in lean, because what we don't want to happen is what happened to us this year when we were less than 1% off in our prediction, and it almost killed us financially. And that's why we had to make these cuts mid-year. Mr. Van Zant does not want us to be in that predicament again where we're having to not fill positions in the middle of the year over a 1% miss. Less than a 1% miss, wasn't it? It was ridiculous. So I tell you that I've said a whole lot of words to say that this package has a lot of thought into it. I assure you that I tease all the time. I'm the one responsible for the allocations, so I don't deal in people. But we got a human resource department that is excellent with humans, and they are great at this reappointment process and making sure people get placed back in jobs, and we try to, to assuage people's fears. We don't want people afraid, because we know people are working hard, and we know people are doing a good job. So let me look. Make sure my notes that if I covered everything I wanted to cover. And I guess I have one final thing to say. I've heard people talk about, we need to have a workshop, talk about these allocations. No, you don't. You need a workshop to talk about how to combine your populations so that you can consolidate your resources so that every school can have some parity. If you had schools of 600, everybody loves an elementary school of 650, that's a perfect size, or 700, then we wouldn't be talking about this disparity in resources. But when you've got an elementary school with 398, 410, 463, you just fiscally, you can't support it. You just can't. So, because remember this too, public. I need to say this commercial as well. The state pays you for every student that goes to school here. Now we know, and you've heard our superintendent say, we talk about school choice, and we have options for school choice. Some of it's charter school, some of it is Florida virtual school. Some of it is dual enrollment, okay? That FTE that follows that child, we don't get extra money for those things. We have to give up or share that FTE to pay for every one of those things, okay? So when that dollar comes in, the governor might have given you $2, but he's making you pay for $5 worth of stuff. Where in the old days, you only had to pay for the $2 worth of stuff. You follow me? Okay? And I had one more. Oh, the other thing, one more thing. Hey, this is almost my end time, so y'all just bear with me. Here, my one last thing I have to say about this number 2, and the reason we need to be careful is because in this 34,947 FTE, we have not subtracted any FTE that we might have to be sending to that charter school that Mr. Merrill said just pushed over dirt last week and plans to open up in August, and says they're going to have, 500 kids?
600 is what they said on TV.
Okay. That 600 would be subtracted out of this, too. I don't know which schools it'll pull from, but it's all on this page.
Ms. Adams, could I ask you a question about that? If children come from another county to go to that charter school, we don't lose the FTE, right? The FTE would follow them from the other county. Okay, I just wanted to clear that, yeah.
We don't have an interlocal agreement with that, so when they come from another district, we don't pay it, but their money doesn't follow them either.
Okay. Yeah,
The only interlocal we have, I think, is like with Bradford and Putnam for the Keystone
Right,
Middleburg area.
but not Duval or,
Right,
yeah. Miss Adams, you're referencing a sheet that apparently has the population of every school. Would you send that to the board members, please? Thank you.
Is that it? Are you all done? Thank you very much. I really, really appreciate that explanation because it does sort of clear up a lot. And I just want to say how professional that I think you are and your staff that has worked on this. I know that this cannot have been easy, but I know you guys have worked hard, and you're right, nobody likes it, but I think that you do the best with what you have, and we hope for a much better outcome. So thank you guys for all your hard work on it. Okay, I'm going to bring it back to the board for discussion. Ms. Gilhousen, I see her.
I just want to echo what the other board members have said and what Ms. Adams said, that this is not an easy decision for anybody. Nobody likes to see allocations go away. We like to see a good, healthy district. And as you said, we suffered some serious economic trouble years back and did what we could to keep our heads above water, and we're paying for it. So I see this as a step in the direction, like you said, of getting us back on track, and hopefully come next school year we'll be able to add some more allocations back. If not, then I think that it's time for us to get creative and look at alternative ways that we can meet the needs of our students that is palatable to everybody, and I think that community workshops are a great way to do that. We've spoken in the past about having advisory boards and that sort of thing. I think that that's a good direction to go. Obviously, we have parents with concern that would like to have some input on the decisions that are being made, and I think that that would be an appropriate route to take. So like you guys said, it breaks my heart to see that we're losing art in some of our schools and that sort of thing, but if the money's not there, if you could you speak to the consequences of continuing to deplete our fund balance should we go into the red, what that can mean for our accreditation, what that can mean for our credit rating and building new schools?
Super.
Well, our credit rating did drop slightly last year because of our fund balance. If we dropped below 2% and presented a audited fund balance for the 14-15 school year below 2%, the state could come in and take over our budgetary decisions, and you wouldn't have to worry about it. These folks wouldn't have to talk to you about it. The state would just handle it. I don't think anybody in the state legislature wants to do that, but they could. That is a possibility. But I'm not going to bring you an allocation package or a budget that's going to put you there. I gave my preferences towards making sure we have a budget with an ever-increasing fund balance. I mean, we don't need a 15% fund balance, but little old Putnam County to the south of us, they've got between 8 and 9% that they've held consistently, and their property values don't match ours, their income levels don't match ours, but they did some of that harder work as a district staff maybe when it made sense to people during the height of the recession. Now we're slowly coming out of a recession, not roaring back. It's never going to be 2006 again. I just don't see that. But it's starting to come back slowly, but we're having to make adjustments in a time where other people are like, wow, it's a great interest rate and my job's pretty stable. I'm going to go buy a new house or buy a new car, and I have stability in my job, and we're lagging a little bit because we're rule followers. Education is rule followers. These people did exactly what state law and their bosses asked them to do during the tough times, and they met class size, and they kept resources, and they did all those things that are good and right things to do. But we can't do as many of those things at the moment as everybody would like to do, and that's just the fact. But I will say this. We have had a more systematic and disciplined approach. I mean, President's Day, school was out, most people were off. Ms. Cornegie had all her people huddled up going through this allocation package. Ms. Adams was right in there with him. Ms. Legutko got started in the middle of all that. I mean, we're doing what needs to be done to reestablish the fiscal health of this district.
Right.
And trying our very best to continue to provide that high level of service that we're known for, and that we're given credit for. So I think long term, the best thing we can do is continue to do the things that Tom Besaw spoke about earlier with Ford, and that our accreditation team recognized. We want to draw business and industry to Clay County. You know, rising tide lifts all ships, and we need more clean industry and business in Clay County. That increases our tax base, our revenue streams, provides jobs, keeps people in the county. All those things will help. And on top of that, I do think that we need to reestablish some kind of community advisory board, and I'll be talking with some of you individually about that, what that will look like. I've talked with some parents, some of them from Orange Park Elementary, right the Friday afternoon before spring break. Literally, besides being a student, my first exposure to the Clay County School District was in 1987 as a high school senior. The superintendent at the time appointed me as a student representative to the Clay County Citizens Advisory Board.
Committee. Were you on that as a student?
I was.
I was on it as a grown-up.
Careful.
That was years
I'm not cracking open that Tupperware, Miss Studdard. We talked about
you're learning
budgets and sex education and all kinds of stuff that was going on then.
Yep.
So I'm very open to public input. I think the more everybody understands the realities that we're dealing with, the maybe some of this anxiety will ease, and we can all row the boat in the same direction. That's my goal.
I have a follow-up question for Mr. Van Zandt,
Yes, Ms.
please.
Studdard.
Mr. Van Zandt, when we had the workshop that Ms. Adams talked about, I remember, I may be off a percentage or so, but Dr. Copeland had asked us, you know, what do you want to do? And we all talked about it, and we had said, you know, we would bleed if we tried to get to 3% by the end of this June. Remember that? And we said if we can, and so we made a game plan to get to like 257 or 258 by the end of this June, and then the game plan was just by the end of the June of
next
year, we would be back up to our 3%. My question is with this $4 million savings, I know it's not an exact science because this is very fluid, but what is your goal for us to end up with the fund balance by the end of this year? You had said something at a meeting, I don't remember which meeting it was, something about trying to get to 5%. That's fine and good, but we can't do it like in 30 days. So I'm trying to figure out, with this $4 million that would be saved on this allocation package, what do you anticipate the fund balance might be at the end of June this year?
Now, there are two different conversations here.
I'm just
we
trying
want to get the 5 sometime after the end of the 14-15 June.
Yeah,
I'm
talking
trying to
about
make sure I got my
June
dates
of this year. I want to know
June
how
5th.
much are you trying to get to by June? Are we still trying to get to 257?
I don't think that's realistic given the third calculation, and I'm not going to hazard a guess. My goal is to make sure we don't fall below 2%. I mean, we took a horrendous hit in the third calculation, and so...
And the calculation in April, she said, what, the second week in April?
Yeah.
Somebody...
So I don't have anything, so I'm not going to just pull a guess out of my head, but I'd be real happy if we are above 2% at the end of this year.
Well, see,
based
this
on
is
what's
where I'm
happened
coming from, and
this
I'm
year.
trying to understand it, do we need to save $4 million in order to pretty much think that we're going to be above 2%?
No, ma'am.
Is it
That's
that
different money.
critical?
That's different money. That's projecting for the 15-16
Yeah.
school year. Whatever that $4 million does or doesn't come out to be would be a fund balance that we would see realized after an audit for June 30 of 16.
Okay, I'm just...
I think what you're asking, Ms. Studdard, is you're trying to figure out where we're going to be this year.
Where we're going to be the end of this
And
year.
I think
That's where I'm trying to figure out.
I think what he said was, I think that because we took the hit
We're
at
gon-
the third calculation, we'll be happy if we're at 2%.
And-
Don't think we're going to be at the 2.57.
But we've got a game plan. But all right, then I'm looking at next year.
Right.
And depending on what comes in, I mean, if we need to save $4 million to keep our head above water, fine and good. I'm just so uncomfortable with some of the things that we're doing, and I'm really nervous. I did not know that we had schools as low in enrollment. I did not know we had a school with less than 300 and less than 400. I mean, in the old days, I used to say, you know, we wanted an elementary school at least 500 students. So now you're saying we've got a couple that are like 400? 4 that are like 400?
Yeah.
See, that scares me because then the rumbling starts out there about closing a school. Been there, done that. Don't want to get into that. But we've got a mess on our hands if we're trying to run schools with 300 and 400 kids.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Studdard. Is there any other discussion? I'd like to bring this back to the board for a vote. Okay, we have a motion for approval by Ms. Condon, a second by Ms. Gilhousen. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carried 5-0.
I would like it stated
For the
under
record,
duress.
I just want to say
I'm sorry.
This kills me to do that.
No.
This
Under
is just,
duress.
awful.
Duly noted. Okay.
Makes me so mad I could scream.
Right now? Okay, when we get to that.
No.
Okay. Next item up is item D3, proposed supplement allocations for 15-16. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
I have a move approval by Ms. Gilhousen. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Condon. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, we're going to move into human resources. We have item D4, which is special action A. I'll entertain a motion.
I move approval.
I have a approval by Ms. Condon.
Motion by Ms. Condon.
I'm sorry, a motion by Ms. Condon.
I'll second.
And a second by Ms. Karakis. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, I'd like to call for a 5 to 10 minute recess right now, if that would be okay.
Sure.
Madam Chairman, may I ask a question before you recess?
Yes.
I noticed that the scheduled citizens' requests are way down at the end, right before the end of the meeting.
Yep.
We've always had those up at the beginning, and that was one reason people liked them, because they didn't have to sit through our long, interesting meetings. But it seems, I mean, by the time these people get to speak, there's no one here.
Yeah, we're almost done, so we'll be there shortly. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting into recess.
Can I go home now? Thank you.
Except for the shake. You did fine.
I kept waiting for you to say that. I was like, what?
You did. You did.
I got a 5-0 vote. I need to text George and tell him. Yeah. No.
Okay, I'd like to call the board members back. Okay. All right. We left off on instruction, and so we're going to pick up on item D6, which is Governor Scott's proclamation designating April as School Library Month. And I'm going to ask Miss Karen Robinson, and she has some ladies that will be coming up with her to speak to this topic.
Thank you. Mrs. Brest, Mrs. Merrill, Dr. Herndon, and I are here tonight to celebrate school libraries and the important role that they play in the total school program. The 2015 celebration marks the 30th anniversary of School Library Month. The first national observance kicked off with a ceremony on the west steps of the U.S. Capitol on April 1st, 1985, and its theme was Where Learning Never Ends, the School Library Media Center. Honoring the anniversary, the 2015 theme is Your School Library, Where Learning Never Ends. School superintendents received a memorandum from Pamela Stewart commemorating School Library Month 2015, and in it she states, I am pleased to announce Florida's observance of School Library Month in April 2015. Each year, our school districts and Florida citizens take time to recognize the programs, services, and resources provided by school libraries. This celebratory month provides opportunities across the state to highlight school library contributions to Florida public education. Research studies conducted in 19 states, including Florida, have found that school library programs make a measurable difference in student academic achievement. School library programs prepare students for lifelong learning and enhance their reading enjoyment. Additionally, School Library Month coincides with National Library Week, which highlights the resources and contributions of all types of libraries. Please support the activities planned by our district to make School Library Month in Florida a success. Dr. Suzanne Herndon will now read Governor Rick Scott's proclamation proclaiming April as School Library Month.
The proclamation reads as follows. Whereas school library programs are an important asset in the education of the youth of our state, and whereas school library programs significantly contribute to student achievement by providing instructional support, resources, and services, and whereas school libraries provide access to information in a variety of formats within the school as well as to digital resources outside the school, and whereas promoting competencies in using new and emerging technologies is an integral part of school library programs, and whereas school library programs promote literacy and the enjoyment of reading, and whereas school librarians are instructional partners and consultants in the teaching and learning process. Now therefore I, Rick Scott, Governor of the State of Florida, do hereby extend greetings and best wishes to all observing April 2015 as School Library Month. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we hope you will accept this and will proclaim April as Library Month in Clay County.
Okay, thank you. And they're asking for approval of this, and so I'd entertain a motion for approval.
I'll move approval.
I have a motion for approval by Ms. Karakis.
I'll second.
And a
Second.
And a second by Ms. Studdard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay. Our next item is item D7, a public hearing to receive public comment and to approve as advertised the adoption of 9 through 12 world language, Spanish 1, 2, and 3 honors and 4 honors instructional materials. I'll entertain a motion.
I move approval.
I'll second.
I have a motion for approval.
Well, this is a public
Is this
hearing.
a public hearing or are we advertising?
You have to open up the public hearing.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So I have a motion by Ms. Condon and a second by Ms. Gilhousen. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing at this point. Okay.
Is there anybody that would like to speak to this item? Okay, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for a discussion.
Now's when you should get a motion in a second, but
Okay.
you've already got it, so we're good.
Okay. No discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay. The next item is also a public hearing to approve as advertised the 2014 through 2017 Special Policies and Procedures Manual. Okay, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody that would like to comment? Okay, public hearing is closed. I'll bring it back to the board. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
I have a motion for approval by Ms. Studdard. And a second by Ms. Condon. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, next item up is item D9. This is the Two Creeks parcel in Oak Leaf area. And were you going to speak to that, Mr. Merrill? Okay, I'll let you speak to that first.
Oh, you really can't see that. Okay. Madam Chairman, members of the board, this is precipitated by a lawyer sending a letter to the school board requesting that you give up your right to have a future school site in the Oak Leaf area called School Site D. I'll give you a little bit of brief background and then give it to you. This is the area we're talking about. It's up in the Oak Leaf area by Brandon Field. You can see Tynes Elementary down in the lower left. You can see our new charter school USA, not our charter school, but the new charter school USA.
Well, it's a public school. Oh.
And School Site D is this little triangular piece of property right here. It's about 20 acres. And just south of, you can see Plantation Oaks Elementary up there, and it's about 90. It's probably going to be closer to 95, 96% next year. Oak Leaf Junior High, Oak Leaf High School, and Oak Leaf Village Elementary, all up in the 90% level of service, and then Argyle Elementary off to the east there. Taking a look a little bit closer at the satellite image. Again, you can see down here is where the charter school is. Here's Tynes Elementary, and this little area right here is School Site D.
Wait, where are you?
Where are you?
We can't find.
You can't see that?
No. It's kind of up towards the middle in the top toward the middle, right on Tynes Boulevard. Yeah.
Mouse doesn't show up on here. It's right here.
We can't. We don't know where you're.
Son of a gun. Is there a pointer on this thing?
Is there a laser? Oh, yes. I saw it on your face. I saw it on your face.
Yeah. Okay.
There you
so
go.
this area right, I'll get you, right in here. That's School Site D with a pond right there in the southeast corner of it. For you there in the audience, is right there.
Okay.
Let's try this thing again. Going up to 30,000 feet. We see there's Tynes Elementary down in the lower left corner. There's the charter school. There's School Site D here. And looking up here, there's Plantation Oaks Elementary, Oak Leaf Junior High, the high school, Oak Leaf Village Elementary, and then Argyle over there.
Wait, now, point up there, please, on the property we have at near Eagle Landing.
Okay, right here. This is School Site Y.
Y, okay.
Right. We own that. We have a deed to it that belongs to us.
Yes, sir.
There's a lot of development going on in this area. A lot of these lots down here in Pine Ridge, in Two Creeks up in this area, it's still to be developed. A lot of vacant lots still to be developed. This big rectangle up here is in negotiations now to be developed. That's 322 acres at 3 houses an acre. We're talking almost 1,000 houses going in that area. School site Y is our only real area right now that we own that we can expand into. And it looks like a big piece of property. Well, but when you take out the easements for environmental easements, they have blue section, it splits it in half. It's a 62-acre lot, but there's only about 30 acres that we can build on. We do have that school already designed. We were going to build it back in 2011, 2012 before the market took a hit. It's designed, it's on the shelf, it's ready to go. It's about, it'll hold about 1,000 kids, and it's just under 100,000 square feet. And looking at some of the contracts we've come in on pre-qualifications, other builders that have built similar type schools, we're talking probably right around the $20 million range for that.
Is that a elementary or middle school? It's an elementary school.
That's an elementary, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
What all got this started was back in 2004. The county was doing the planning on how they wanted to develop this area. They knew it was an area of high growth, so they came up with the Brandon Field Master Plan. And in that master plan has been, can't really read that either. But in the master plan, the section on schools says that schools shall be designated on the master plan map. And it can be modified by the county commission by ordinance amendment with the concurrence of the school board. Okay, so you folks are pretty much in the driver's seat on whether we want to turn this back over and allow the developer to use it for residential property. This is the Brandon Field Master Plan, the big yellow thing. And zooming in, once again, you can see here's Tynes Boulevard, there's Tynes Elementary School, and there's school site D. It's in the clutter there, but it is designated on this Brandon Field Master Plan map. So I talked to Holly Parrish, who is the Director of Economic Improvement for the county, and asked her, could the BCC just, if the developer went directly to the BCC and asked them to change it, and she said no, it would have to be with the school board concurrence that we change that. So in summary, I talked to the developer about a month and a half ago, and we had this discussion, and I told him that I didn't really know what the impact of the charter school was going to be on our enrollment. Our only really area that we can expand is school site Y up there, and that I wasn't comfortable just releasing school site D to be developed as residential property at this time. Maybe in a year or two, when we find out the impact of the charter school on our enrollments, you might be more amenable to it, but my position was that not at this time would we want to turn it over. That's when he decided to write the letter to the board and seek your approval.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Any questions?
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Merrill before we?
I have one.
Okay, Ms. Condon.
Mr. Merrill, and maybe the superintendent or Mr. Sykes would need to speak to this, but what are the ramifications or repercussions of us not complying with this? And they've just, arbitrarily said that they have had this parcel encumbered for 10 years and they believe that's long enough, but at what point, is there?
I think there's a 15-year, if I'm correct, I believe we can hold on to that for 15 years. Is that correct?
I looked in the Brandon Field Master Plan and I couldn't find any time limit on it.
Okay.
It was just designated as a school site by 3 or 4 planners ago in conjunction with the county.
Okay.
And those are designated school sites, and they're sort of at your control right now.
Okay.
And this developer has only owned this site for about a year. It was owned previously by Two Creeks Investment. Then it was owned by the bank, and these folks bought it from the bank.
Two Creeks Investment, is that a local organization?
I'd have to look to see what the address was, but Two Creeks Investment. This is the Two Creeks development area down in there, so they call it Two Creeks Investment was the one that had developed this. Again, Hillcrest Properties owns it now. I'm not sure where Drees Homes, if they're going to buy it from Hillcrest Properties, but it's been at the bank until May of 2014, then Hillcrest Properties bought it.
And when it was purchased, they knew that there was this designated school site in that property. They
Right.
knew that when it was purchased.
Right, they should have known that when it was purchased, because it's
Yeah.
been there for many years. So before they purchased it, they should have looked.
Ms. Karakis, you had a question?
Mrs. Stutter
Just asked it. Okay.
That was my
Oh, I'm
question.
sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, any other questions? All right, I'll bring it to the board. I'll entertain a motion.
I would like to move that we not release the property.
I
Okay.
second it.
So I have a motion from Ms. Condon to not release the property, and a second by Ms. Studdard. Is there any further discussion?
I just think that this would, I think Mr. Murrell's right. That, not knowing the impact of that charter school, the outer beltways going in out there, Oakleaf is the booming area right now. I think for the school, I mean, we're here to look after the best interest of the school district, and I think that it would be really not a very good idea to do this at this point. Down the road, you see, I mean, we don't know what this charter school's going to do. We don't know how many people are going to be building houses out there. I
Yeah.
mean, we do have the property, and up there at Eagle Landing, which would give us an elementary on that side of Brandonfield Chafee. But my gosh,
Yeah. I'm looking at the other schools at their capacity right now, 91%, 91%, 89%, 90%, and Tynes being at 84% capacity right now, and you're right. We don't know what the charter school is going to do, and I'm in total agreement. I don't think that we can let that go right now. So,
And also, this alternate property that we have is for a elementary school. So, like you said, the high school and the junior high are also near capacity, and this would be the only site where we could build another one of those.
Well, this would only be big enough for an
only
elementary. It's only 20 acres.
Oh,
This
okay.
would be an elementary also.
Okay.
it's not hardly big enough for an elementary, but we could do something with it.
okay.
Hey, we could sell it.
So we have
make some
a
money.
motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay. All right, we are moving on to the scheduled citizens request, but before we do, I have a yellow card from Mr. Travis Christensen, who would like to speak to item 53 before she presents.
Thank you. Travis Christensen, 2871 Affirm Court. Two very quick comments that apply to this. One is earlier a comment was made that parents that went to some of these schools signed a form that sort of suggested they were supposed to support the administration and therefore not be critical. I'd like to point out that the right to address your government for grievances is part of the U.S. Constitution. Citizens never give up their right to address a government body for any problems. And secondly, coming here for a number of years, many of the budget problems in the past, present, and I'm sure in the future, are not really the fault of the district, but are the part of Tallahassee. And there's like a disconnect where it almost feels like it's not a partnership between the districts and the state as far as I have seen. Now, the school board is elected by the people to be their representatives. Earlier, Mrs. Condon mentioned an item in which we said we should all contact our legislators. That's great. Many of the individuals and groups in the county and elsewhere do contact their legislators because you are our representatives. If there is if you identify a capital Tallahassee-related problem, I feel it is the responsibility of the district to address that in lobbying towards individual legislators or other government bodies related to public education in Florida. I'm by no means a Tallahassee insider, but I've been there a few times, and many of these people, many of the elected legislators, I'm sure they mean well. They understand education in very general terms and talking points and have absolutely no idea of how complex it is at this level, and they do not understand what their votes sometimes mean, and it seems to apply often to people who are on the education committee. So what I'm asking you is, like, take all efforts, please, in any manner, shape, or form, individual members, as a district, as members of the various associations associated with education, need to redouble the efforts to talk to these elected officials in Tallahassee. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, scheduled citizens request. Our first speaker is Joanne Denmark. She's going to be speaking on OPE, loss of teacher allocations, and budget/testing concerns.
My name is Joanne Denmark, and you have my address on file. Good evening, Mr. Superintendent, Madam Chairman, and school board members, and those concerned Clay County citizens watching via TV or internet. Hi, Armana. I was born and raised in Jacksonville. I'm a product of the Clay County public school system. I attended Grove Park Elementary, Orange Park Junior High School, and Orange Park High School I graduated from in 1990. I received my bachelor's in special education and a master's in communication disorders. I have experience as a special ed teacher and currently work in the county as a practicing speech-language pathologist. My husband is active duty military. We have 2 children. Our son is in 5th grade, David, who you heard earlier, and our daughter is in 1st grade. Both of our children attend Orange Park Elementary. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak with you today again and to share my story as to what brought me here today. Again, you are hearing the truth as a parent, a stakeholder in my children's education. I'm speaking today to follow up with the February 19th school board speech that I spoke last month and the events that have taken place prior to this evening. As stated on February 19th, I will relentlessly inform each and every Clay County parent that is willing to listen to me so they can be an informed parent regarding the future of our school district. And you will continue to hear from me until this is resolved. Surprisingly, a lot of parents were unaware of the budget crisis or how to access previously recorded school board meetings. So I happily shared with the concerned parents to go on oneclay.net and how to access those videos. I checked the website, and the last school board meeting was viewed 980 times, which is most of any recorded meetings. Parents do not have the time to sit here at 10:10 at night for these long and drawn-out meetings. I don't blame them. You're not going to find many 3rd or 4th grade parents here because we have testing. FSA testing is scheduled for Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. So it's quite convenient for them to be an informed parent through the recorded, televised school board meetings. After last month, I sent an email to you, Mrs. Condon, in regards to one of your summation comments regarding your son's new Basil Reader book. And thank you for your response. I want to quote from your response to me. You said, "There is a group of parents out of Orange and Alachua counties that have sued the state over the funding of education. Their lawsuit is finally set to be heard in August, and that they would welcome my help." End quote. Mrs. Condon, I don't feel like your suggestion to sue the state is not going to solve problems. It's not a solution. It's not a solution that I wish to waste my time with, nor waste anyone's taxpayers' dollars on. I know the county could do that, but lawyers cost money, as we know, and I don't think the hardworking citizens of our county want to spend their tax dollars on lawyer fees versus funding a teacher's salary. So let me go back to your email, Mrs. Condon. You said many of the frustrations are not going to be resolved locally, but rather in Tallahassee, and we welcome the help of parents to push the increasing funding of education. End quote. So the repeated mantra I keep hearing is the state is at fault. So I took your advice and I reached out to Tallahassee. I reached out with our Clay County Representative, Travis Cummings. He listened to our parental concerns, and he and his phenomenal staff arranged on March 10th for 5 parents to go to Tallahassee. We met, and I'm not talking 3 to 5 minute meet and greets. We sat down for 30, 45 minutes, and we had very in-depth conversations. We met with Representative Marlene O'Toole. She's the chair of the Education Committee. Representative Janet Atkins. She's the chair of Education K-12 Subcommittee. We met with the chair of Education Appropriations Subcommittee, the assistant to Representative Fresen. We met with the budget chief. We met with senior staff director of Education Committee, policy chief of K-12 Subcommittee, and the Department of Education. We met with the Director of Governmental Relations and the Deputy Commissioner of Finance and Operations, Linda Champion. So we left at 6 in the morning, and we went on March 10th, took time off of work to advocate for our children. We met with these named legislative leaders, and we did not want to sit there and yell at them. We wanted to learn the process of district budgets, how tests are chosen in regards to the FSA, Common Core standards, the curriculum, etc. Our goal was to learn the process. In turn, our legislative leaders wanted to hear parental concerns and what is happening in the trenches with our teachers. We learned that our government leaders have our children's education highly prioritized. We felt they genuinely heard our concerns and asked us to use them as resources. We learned that the finger pointing stops here at the district level. They requested for continued communication from us, parents, and encouraged us to continue to advocate for our children and to be a part of the solution. We learned a great deal and left informed, and knowledge is power. One of the few key points that I wanted to share with you that we learned, Linda Champion, the Department of Education, she is our Deputy Commissioner of Finance and Operations, and including the Budget Chief, concurred that last year, I don't know if you're aware, because Mrs. Karakis and even you, Mrs. Adams, you were talking about some of the FTE, and they shared with us that last year the FTE numbers were miscalculated. You did not, or whoever was in charge at the time of the FTE counts, did not inform about the Clay Virtual students. So Tallahassee went back, Mrs. Champion reported to Mr. Superintendent and said, your numbers are wrong. You need to fix it. You have a certain amount of time. It was not fixed. Those are thousands of dollars that are being affected, that were lost. Thousands of dollars are lost. This is information that came out of their mouths. 2 people told me that. Another point, another knowledge, is that the FTE belly buttons that you're talking about, Mrs. Adams, that we count those for that week, for that FTE week. I'm a therapist in the county, and they tell me, Joanne, you have to see these kids because we need funding for them. If they don't show up, they're sick that day, we don't get money for that. I don't know if any of you realize that. Also, the FSA testing, we were told that we could be part of the advisory committee when they go to level out those questions on the test. Teachers, parents can request to be on those advisory committees. So, subsequently, on March 13th, I met the same group of parents, met with you, Mr. Superintendent, and Ms. McKinnon, to discuss our Tallahassee findings. Again, our purpose was to offer solutions, practical solutions, to our dire situation within the county. Mr. Van Zant, you took notes, and you even followed up with an email for me, and I wanted to go over some of those solutions. One of them was town hall meetings to increase communication and to know our school board governance. A lot of parents out there do not know who our school board members are. A grant writing team was also a solution to meet our technology deficits, which can be made up of parent volunteers. Common Core is here to stay. A financial exchange was made through the Obama administration called Race to the Top, and so the state took that money. However, since it's here to stay, we as a district have a say in the curriculum chosen to implement that Common Core. And again, Tallahassee told us this. So we suggested a district-wide advisory committee to include all stakeholders, parents, teachers, principals, government leaders. Also, the statewide testing is a given, no matter where. So testing is here to stay. And instead of doing the time frame of 3 months, like with the FCAT, we can do it over 2 weeks. So we want to revisit the school calendar, so we are not administering a test following spring break like this week. They encouraged us to request for the specific statute that determines these district determinations. There is none. There is no statute to determine that, so we can be improved as a district as a whole. Transparency was also a solution. We need increased communication between school board governance, everyone, parents, teachers, and all of you. So over the spring break, I conveniently or inconveniently, the 2015-16 teacher allocations were made public, and I'm noticing a pattern forming of important school-related information that's relayed over school breaks. So I didn't see Mr. Gavin Rollins here, but I wanted to suggest to him to use the app to notify about relevant educational information like allocations for the new school year, including the district allocations in May that you were talking about, Ms. Karagies. So we know about the job cuts. I don't need to go over those again. And concurrently, I received this charter school letter in the mail. I hope I get more time. Is that right? I don't know if you can read it. So I'm not going to read the whole letter, but just in case you haven't seen it or received one of these, it says, exciting new educational opportunity. As a parent, you expect more for your children. Tuition-free enrichment programs, music, art, PE, foreign language, technology. Why do these charter schools offer what public schools cannot afford? Those enticing words should be written about our own public schools. Opportunities offered to our own children at our own schools, not a competitor. Why? Some of you out there may not be aware that our district's budget, and Mr. Van Zandt, you said it was $1.2 million. It's $1.5 million that our district spends, and $2 million for the new charter school. And so I want to point that out here. Right here, right here. And Mr. Van Zandt had presented this last month. Our district is a business, and we are nearing bankruptcy. Our competitor, yes, competitor, because it's all about school choice. The charter schools are taking our dissatisfied customers, our parents, our children, and welcoming them with open arms, providing the services that we, the true public schools, should have been providing to begin with, or that you are cutting. Like any business, if it loses customers to poor customer service, meaning recurrent cutting of allocations, taking away music, taking away art, increased testing demands, increased teacher demands, lack of communication and disconnect between administration and teachers and parents, then it's a no-brainer that we will lose our customers. Our parents, our students, our teachers will go elsewhere. Parents want what's best for their children, and the charter opportunity is a perfect choice when our public school system is failing our children. I can't say it enough. Our children are not numbers or test scores. They are human beings.
Ms. Denmark, are you almost done?
I am almost done, I promise.
Okay.
All stakeholders must work together. We ask for transparency. We ask for accountability. We ask that as parents, you treat our children as the future that they are. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Denmark. Okay, our next speaker is, our superintendent.
I just want to clarify one or two things. I was asked earlier what specifically we were paying out to Orange Park Performing Arts Academy, and that estimate is $1.2 million and change. The other two numbers that are added in there to bring it up to 1.5 are the Virtual Academy at Clay and the Pace Center for Girls. So your 1.5 number is correct, but that's not the question I answered earlier. So just to clarify that, no Miss Linda Champion-Well and Commissioner Stewart. They've called, emailed, called me directly when they really wanted to get a hold of me. Not going to play the finger pointing game. Last year in Clay Virtual Academy, since we've had a Virtual Academy since its inception, semester grades were recorded at the end of each semester. Due to a little-known change in the legislature, they asked for final grades to be reported. And we got, I believe, one email, and I'm going to ask Ms. Adams because she's been dealing with this since last September when the error was found. We reported, we sent it to them. They sent a secretary one email, is all I'm aware of. And then they told us by law they could not have a positive audit finding, which is not true. And in stark contrast to just last week, they thought we were overstating something. They called, they emailed, they called again, and they were all excited to make sure they didn't pay us too much. So the river flows both ways. You can't just simply take things at face value. And if anybody's known me for any length of time, thinks that I ignore hundreds of thousands of dollars after I've been told, that's just not true.
Thank you. you.
But Ms. Adams might have a little more, or maybe we don't need anything added, I don't know.
Okay. All right, our next speaker is Kevin Biley. Did I say that right? Biley. Okay, Kevin Biley.
Can't hear me, let me know, but it seems to be really loud out there.
Okay.
My name is Kevin Biley. You have my address on record. And I want to thank you for allowing me to speak again. I spoke last month. I think it's important for us to talk about these county issues, and as a concerned parent, I think it's important to share my concerns with the board members, the parents, and the residents of Clay County. I was here last month, as I said, and I shared my story of my son, whose class went from 19 to 26 children, and how it impacted his excitement and enthusiasm for school. I continue to be concerned that the increase in class sizes across Clay County have a negative impact on our children. And I would like to ask you all to think about being a 5-year-old kindergartner in our county, whose first experience at school is making new friends and bonding with teachers and developing excitement to learn. Now imagine halfway through the first year, you return from Christmas break, only to find out you're being split from new friends you've made, given a new classroom and teacher, and forced to bond with new children who have been together for 5 months. How is this going to impact those 5-year-olds' view on school? Have you reached out to any of these children to find out how the budget crisis is impacting them? Have you gone to any of the classrooms to see how the class size is affecting learning? And have you gone to any of the mobile classrooms to see how 26 students in a mobile classroom affects not only the learning, but it also increases distractions? I think it's important for you guys to reach out firsthand and experience this, to talk to the children and to learn to understand how these impact our children. Now let's discuss the impact on Clay County and how losing teachers not only negatively impacts the school system, but the entire county. As class sizes grow, it becomes more difficult for teachers to teach and students to learn. If we continue not to fill positions, the high quality of education Clay County has been known for will continue to erode. Based on data from the Florida School Board of Education, the Clay County School District was consistently an A school from 2014 to 2012. It fell to a B school in 2013 and 14. The school system is the foundation of the growth for our county, and as school scores in the district decline, so does the growth. We want Clay County not only to be an A district, but we want Clay County to be the best district in Florida and the top district in the nation. I know we all share this view, but when we want people to come to Florida, we want them to look at Clay County and choose Clay County because of the schools. Clay County is not going to get there if district grades continue to climb. Clay County will lose out on both residential and commercial growth, causing a loss in tax revenue and further eroding our education system and funding. Not being able to replace teachers is just compounding this issue. Tonight I was planning to ask some questions like, what is the plan for 2015-16? How does the district plan on filling the positions it eliminated in the 2014-15 school year? I wanted to ask these questions because the answers I can consistently get are hope that the state of Florida approves a budget that includes more money for education. This is not a plan. I can't buy a house based on income I hope I'm going to have, and a school district cannot be run based on money it hopes will be allocated. When I reviewed the allocation summary on the agenda, I now know there is no plan. There is no plan to replace the positions that were lost. There is no plan to move educators into schools that lost positions, and no plan to correct this in the future. I know schools that did not lose teachers are gaining teachers, and schools that lost teachers are losing more teachers. I noticed that some schools are gaining resource teachers at the expense of other schools. Next year, 6 elementary schools will have 5 resource classes. 18 will have 4 resource classes. 9 will have 3, and 1 will have 2. This seems to allocate resource classes unfairly amongst our schools and not allow all children the opportunity to expand their learning environment. Not only does it unfairly allocate resources to classes, it causes disparity in resource classes by allowing more schools to offer 5 resource classes and others to only offer 3. There needs to be consistency in how resource classes are offered in the schools so students have a chance to excel outside of an academic setting. My hope is that this will get more parents involved in what's going on in our district, since people tend to get involved once they're directly impacted. I'm a great example of that. I was not aware of the issues within Clay County school system until my son's 4th grade class, or 4th grade, lost a teacher. Throughout this, I've been trying to make sense, or make sure I fully understand what is going on at the state and county level. As I continue to research this to fully understand, I'm discovering that the issues are complicated, and without proper research, documents, and communications can be misconstrued. I had a memo called the Flexibility and the Use of Instructional Material Funds that was easy to read as Clay County turning down state funds, and I was ready to question it. But as I dug further, I realized that the resource was already allocated to us for instructional material, and the memo was allowing the county the flexibility to use those funds for technology. So as I strive to better understand the issues and continue to dig through information, I will continue to fight for our children in Clay County, and I will continue to come to board meetings as I want a plan. And putting our funding level, our fund ahead of our education of our children is not a plan or an option. The county needs to keep the minimum resources allowed until the education system is fixed, and should not strive for 5% reserves before we have the proper groundwork to place or to rebuild the Class A school system and give our children the education they deserve. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I look forward to hearing your long-term plan on how our district can turn this around without sacrificing our children's education. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Biley. Okay, next we move to presentations from the audience. I have one card from Travis Christensen.
Hello again, still Travis Christensen, still live at 2871 Affirmed Court as far as I know. Basically I want to carry on the same theme of advocacy towards legislative action. I mean, a lot of the stuff does originate from Tallahassee. Now, the particular issue I want to talk about is Common Core or Florida Standards assessments, whichever one you prefer to call it. Now, no one in Florida seems to like this except for people in Tallahassee. I get around quite a bit, and I found that at this point, many elements of the Tea Party and conservatives are on the same page as the education associations in supporting certain bills in the legislature, and opposing certain other bills. You actually find, basically, you know which bills I'm talking about. Each one's that basically everything except what was proposed by Senator Getz. Everything that reduces the load for the number of assessments, everything that reduces the load for the amount of accountability on what is at this point an unproven new assessment system. I mean, I would prefer, do what you can as a school district to try and help with this. I know that you have a lot on your plate. Budget, is your responsibility. Probably budget is your first responsibility. Nonetheless, there is a lot of problems with this stuff, and representatives of the people of Clay County, as far as public education, it falls within the big list of things to do, and the legislative session is almost halfway over. Very closely related to this, Americans need to take a good look at what's going on in their country as far as education. I'm at the point I feel the citizens don't really have a lot of control over the education system as a whole. What we see is the state legislature, which I've been told a few different times by different people, doesn't trust school boards and doesn't want to give them very much power because they feel they tend to be liberal. Whether that's true or not, that does cut off the local citizens at the knees as far as representation, because if your school board doesn't really have much power, who do you talk to? I mean, they are your first representatives in education. You go further into the legislature, you find that just a few people seem to pull the strings. The idea this year, what I've been told, is like one single person, the head of Senate Education Appropriation, will probably write the final education bill, and the House will more than likely go along with it. What about all the other representations? There's a crisis of representation and citizen control in education. I'd like you all to do what you can to represent the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Christensen. Okay. Superintendent requests.
Well, I appreciate very much everybody that's come and spoke tonight. I'm either in Tallahassee on the phone or corresponding with them weekly, a couple times a week. So at least to that end, there's no question what they have been asked for from the superintendent of Clay County Schools. They could probably tell you they're well versed in that and know what I think that we need to do. Just as a point of clarity, if I could, an hour's getting late, so I won't go long. The school board's primary function in Florida statute, like the last speaker mentioned, is to set a budget. That's what they have to do every year, and that's what the legislature must do if they do nothing else. The school board's secondary role is to set policy, which we have policies in Clay County that let the district staff present plans to the school board to get it to an A-rated school district. And those plans are in place. I'll be glad to have more conversations with the previous speaker on those plans to get us to an A rating. Yes, the school district did drop 2 years ago from an A to a B. 40 of 67 school districts dropped from an A to a B. Ms. Cornegie gave a pretty good presentation on how that happened, I think in November or December, with the FCAT writing scores going from 3 to 3.5. And again, I could go back even farther if you cared and show you where I advised the legislature not to move the accountability bar without providing the resources to get the teachers and the kids where they all needed to be. We could have moved up together. That's what I did advocate for. But Clay County is on the rise, folks. We get accredited every 5 years. The way that we will come out of this is to strengthen our economy by strengthening our community and by raising the aptitude of our students, and all of those things are in motion and we've been recognized for. If you heard the guy from Ford tonight, people are coming here to see what we're doing. Within this month, we've had a website design company come from California to Clay County because we've done such innovative things with our web design, our social media, and the way that we're actually communicating with parents. There's always room for improvement. I'm not saying we've arrived. We'll never arrive. It's a direction. It's not a destination. But we are heading in the right direction, and other people are taking note. The Collaborative Classroom Company invited one assistant superintendent to Washington, D.C., who testified in the Rayburn building 2 weeks ago. I know I was there on the instructional model that we have in Clay County. That was Ms. Cornegie. There was a whole bunch of other people in the room with a whole bunch of education pedigree and pedagogy, but they were all asking what we're doing here in Clay County, and that event was moderated by the publisher of Ed Weekly. So I just say all that to encourage you. I thoroughly believe we're heading in the right direction, and if we can put more out there to show that, I'll be thinking about how to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. School board requests. Ms. Stutter, would you like to go first? Do you have anything?
I don't want to be the hog of the show because I say something and
I'll
they
tell
don't
you
have
what, how
anything
about
to
I'll
say.
go first?
Why don't you start somewhere else?
Okay,
Because then
you got
that
it.
way I'm starting to feel guilty because I say everything. And
Well,
then
you
they don't get
always
to say
you
anything.
always made me go first when I was sitting down there.
No,
so
I
I'm just kidding
alternated
back
it
with you.
around.
Okay. I'll go first. Really, the only thing that I just wanted to throw out there was we had an active shooter event this last month, which was really a great event. We had different agencies from all over the state and county come and participate in that event. It was a great event. I know Ms. Studdard and I were both there, and we just learned a lot, and I know it was a great learning exercise for our district, and so I thought it was really good. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's all. I just wanted to make mention of that. It was good. Ms. Condon?
Just in case someone didn't see it on the news, that was a drill.
Yes.
That was done. The active shooter was not a live situation. I had the privilege of celebrating Dr. Seuss's birthday by reading at Clay Hill Elementary and Tynes Elementary. I think Mrs. McKinnon also read at Tynes. She forgot to mention that, but that was a real joy. While they were at the active shooter drill in Keystone Heights, I came to the other end of the county and had the privilege of judging in the Jim Harbin Media Festival. And if you haven't gotten to watch any of those videos, they are available through the website, and they are incredible. You can see some real talent, especially in our junior high and high school students, where they are able to shine. I had a few teachers and media specialists share with me that those are a lot of students who, by other standards, might be kind of wayward, kind of at-risk students, and they've found a way to shine. And one student in particular, I had seen a number of his videos in a number of different categories that I judged, and so after the judging was over, I happened to see one of his teachers, and she said to me, she got a big smile on her face, and she said, "He's one of my kids I saved." And I said, "You saved?" And she said, "He was headed to drop out. And he now is a senior, and he's headed to college and wants to study media production." So I would encourage you to look at those if you haven't had that opportunity. And I think that in the next I think in April, they actually will announce the winners of that. And then on Thursday, I have the privilege of going to Middleburg to help judge in the FFA Ornamental Horticulture Career Development, which we're excited to be hosting for the first time for all of Northeast Florida. So that's a real exciting thing. And then the final thing, I would just like to encourage the superintendent and senior staff, when you work on budgeting process, we've heard a lot about talking to people in Tallahassee. I know that I frequently have sent emails, phone calls, made personal visits, as well as other school board members. But I know that in, I believe it was last year's budget, you proposed a lobbyist for Clay County Schools in Tallahassee, and I know that St. Johns County has had a long-time lobbyist, and I've talked to a number of people that have said that that has behooved them to getting some resources. So I would encourage you, I don't know where you'll find an administrative allocation to do that with, but I think that there's got to be somewhere, some way that you can find a way to help get us the connections that we need. I would congratulate the citizens because they've been able to get sit-down meetings with far more legislators than we can get in the door with. When we say we're from Clay County School Board or from any school board members and superintendents right now are not getting time with the education committee members in Tallahassee for whatever reason. So congratulations that you guys got that time. And I guess the final note I would make is Mrs. Denmark quoted part of my email, but what I'd like to clarify is that the lawsuit that I referenced, that I encouraged her to look into that group of citizens, not to sue herself, there is a lawsuit brought by a group of parents from Orange County. They have an attorney from Alachua County who has joined them, and that is a group called Fund Education Now. What they have demanded, they've been fighting this fight for 5 years. They've demanded that the state actually fund all of the mandates that they have put in the Constitution. The state tried to have that lawsuit thrown out numerous times. That lawsuit is finally set to be heard this coming August. the outcome of that should be interesting to watch, because basically what they're alleging, and I would tend to personally agree with them, is that there are mandates coming out of Tallahassee that there is no money behind. And so if we are required to meet them, they should give us the funding to meet them, otherwise stay out of our business of educating our children. But at any rate, I'm done.
Ms. Karakis.
Thank you. First, I'd like to compliment the young men that spoke tonight. They were very well spoken. They presented themselves exceptionally, and I know we're going to hear more from them in the future, and we're going to see them at probably our science fair and our spelling bee and things of that nature down the road, because they certainly seem to be two very upstanding young men who are doing very well. It's been a busy month. Everybody tells, you know, everything that we've done all month, and it's been a lot of fun. It's always great to be in our schools. I enjoyed the day that we were here to meet the accreditation team when they gave their update and review on everything to us the day they did the meetings, and I'm glad that everything went well with that. I guess the only comment I have is for Mr. Sykes, our attorney. At last month's meeting, I had requested the receipts from John Eastern that dealt with Boyd and Generate for the 4 cases for the parish, Hartley, Hollenbecker, and Steinmetz, and I haven't received any update, and it's been over a month. And I was expecting a response in a timely manner.
Ma'am, I don't maintain those records. Ms. Legutko has. I'm going to brief you on that when it comes time for me to speak.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Ms. Gilhausen.
I'd just like to applaud the parents and teachers who are advocating for our students. I hope that you know that your board feels the same way, that our students come first and their education comes first. I hope that we can bring some consensus about with a more formal way for you to express your concerns and ideas, like we discussed through an advisory committee. I think that the sooner the better we develop that. That would be my request. I hope that everybody enjoyed their spring break, and please know that you guys are in our thoughts as you truck through the testing this week, and I know we'll all breathe a sigh of relief when that's over with.
Ms.
Now,
Studdard.
Now let me try to find something that y'all didn't talk about. Okay. All right. Junior high, senior high Special Olympics. They did get to have those this month. It was fun. It was great. Getting ready to go the next Friday for the elementary, and it was bad weather, and so it had to be canceled. But that's always a nice event to attend. Of course, the full-scale active assailant exercise, I've never seen anything like that before, but that was well worth it, and good knowledge, good things I learned down there. But thank goodness it was just a drill. Jeez. Okay, the accreditation. I was delighted to hear the report from the committee chairman before they left, and you know, Ken Manuel, who is the number 2 man for Advanced Ed, I had talked to him at length back several months before that. He assured me that Clay County was in good shape and that there should not be any problem. There were some rumors out there that we were in jeopardy and so forth, but thank goodness now we can all see that that was just what it was. Oh, I've got to tell y'all something good. Ms. Karakis and I went to the district spelling bee down at the Jacksonville Library, and this happened since the last board meeting, so I am legitimately talking about it. Joshua Brown was the Clay County Spelling Bee winner. He's a student out at Wilkinson Junior High. Now, we've seen him over the years because when he was in 6th grade, he was 3rd place in the county, and then the next year he was 2nd place, and then the next year he was 1st place. And we've also seen him at the science fair. So he's a very bright young man, presents himself quite well. So we go down there that Saturday morning to the Jacksonville Library, and there he sits with his suit, and he is ready to go. Well, most of the time, apparently from what the judges said, most of the time, you know, you may go 28, 29, 30, 32 rounds. Well, we were sitting there. It got down to Clay County's Joshua Brown and the young lady from Duval, After about 29 rounds, it was down to those two. We sat there until 12:30. It went 61 or 62 rounds, just these two students. I have never seen anything like it in my whole life. Even Dan Scanlon was the moderator. Dan Scanlon, is that his name? He was the moderator. He said, and he's done this every year. He's never seen anything like it. It went for hours. I mean, we were sitting there dying. But Joshua did come in second. I felt like it was kind of a fluke, but I have never been so proud of anyone in my life. And what made me especially proud of Joshua Brown is when, after all that time, the other contestant won. You would have been proud of how gracious he was in congratulating her and how he conducted himself. It was a sight to behold. But yay, Joshua is all I've got to say. And the fair's coming up in a couple of weeks. Hope everybody goes to the fair. Hope we have some good weather. And then Easter's coming up. I hope you all have a wonderful Easter. And with that, I say good night.
Okay. Attorney requests.
Thank you. First off, I'm going to be asking that we have an executive session of the board with the Boyd Gennarette, the firm that's handling some of the cases we referred to. What's important about that is I think it's important that we have an attorney-client privilege communication with the board regarding the status of all the cases to see how they have been conducted to date and the status of the impact of that litigation. The best part about the way that we do it under the law is there will be a court reporter present that will record the meeting. Once those cases are closed, then that becomes a matter of public record, and everybody can see, for future reference, how these cases have been conducted. So I think going into the next part of my statement, I think it's going to be very, very important for the board to take a full look at how all these cases that are presently out there, what's going on. And then we'll have an attorney-client privilege communication that will ultimately become a matter of public record because the citizens are entitled to know this eventually. That's number one. Number two, in the process, I'm putting together my report. It's not done yet. I want to have the report to the board after we have that executive meeting about the legal representation that's going on in Northeast Florida. And here's what I found so far, just as a quick update. Out of the Northeast Florida area, Nassau County, Baker County, Duval County, Union County, Bradford County, St. Johns County, and Putnam County, nobody has a full-time attorney on salary at the school board doing insurance defense. And a conversation with Mr. Van Zant about that is like, well, why? Well, one of the things that happens when you have in-house attorney doing insurance defense is, as any appointed member of this board or assistant superintendent, teachers, you all are cloaked with sovereign immunity. In your official capacity, from your appointed positions and whatever, you are cloaked with sovereign immunity. What that means is if you make a mistake in the normal course of business, you cannot be sued for making a mistake in your appointed position. You're cloaked with sovereign immunity. When you have in-house counsel doing your insurance defense, if there is a mistake made on a specific litigation that would be otherwise malpractice, the county pays for it. When you take a look at all of these other counties, all the rest of these counties refer to outside counsel. And basically the average billing that I'm finding is the same amount of billing rate, $140 per hour, that Boyd Gennarette. So it basically comports with the standards that we have in Northeast Florida for what we're doing right now. The specific question that was pointed to me, and I don't have the bills, so I can't forward it to anybody on the board, but I've asked Ms. Legutko what we have right now, and all we have is $2,152 that comes out of Johns Eastern, who is managing the personal injury cases. I have asked Ms. Legutko, and I think she's going to try to do it for May, where we can do a mirror image of the 4 months before and the 4 months after, taking a look at all these bills. One of the problems that I think has been suggested to the board is that there has been, until I've been here, there's been referring cases to outside counsel, which is not true. The board has done it routinely and consistently throughout the least for the amount of time I can take a look back. We've referred workers' compensation cases, labor law cases, and we've also referred other litigation out from the board for other outside counsel to use. So I think it's important to take a look at what we're doing and how we're spending that money, and that's what I'm trying to put together. Specifically also, I want the board to know that cost-saving measures that I've taken on behalf of the board so far is as follows. I have asked Mr. Seen, I'm not asking the board to pay my bar fees. That was done before. I've asked her to counsel all of the Attorney Bar Association fees, subscriptions to legal publications, and not to fund any professional development. Those are things that a normal lawyer takes care of on his own. I don't need the board to pay for that. As a matter of fact, I have access to Westlaw for free from a program we have in another county, and so I can do the research, and the county doesn't pay for that legal research. It's basically, I have a free subscription we can use. Additionally, when it comes to my paralegal, I have voluntarily reduced her time. Although we have a contract for $3,000 a month, I've gone through, when we first came on board, I used her significantly, getting my arms around all the cases that we have. I've got them under control, and frankly, $3,000 a month does not justify her time, and so I've split that in half. And basically, it comports with what you would have right now in the market standards for a paralegal for the amount of time that I'm using her, and it saves money for the board. So I have now I don't have a complete listing of it here, but just a projection that Ms. Legutko gave me going forward with what we have. But this is not talking about all the referral of other attorney fees and labor law and whatnot. She projects, if you annualize the savings right now, at $110,000 a year, the way we're doing things right now. But I think that we'll have a more accurate number in May when we take a look at the 4 months before and the 4 months preceding. But I will tell you that, at least in my opinion, what I'm seeing, we have a substantial cost-benefit analysis in saving the way we're doing things. And then lastly, I've worked very hard with the staff to be timely in my response to certain matters whenever that comes up. I've given out my cell phone numbers. I'm called constantly, and I try to answer questions. And at this juncture, I've not heard any complaints about a failure to be timely in my response to anything to the board, even though I'm not at the office full-time. All right?
All right. Thank you very much. And with that, this meeting is adjourned. Did we want to set a date? Okay, all right. Yeah, I was going to come and meet with... We talked about it this morning, yeah.
Okay,
I was
so
here,
you don't want to do a audit?
I came up here this morning. I was up at the district office, and we've got
I
that all.
haven't put anything on there, but Sharice's trying to get there. I'll be available all day Friday.
Okay.
I just want to make sure we got you and Susan and me together with the auditors.
Now, that's on Friday, right?
Yeah,
Were we going to
Friday.
do it before? Did you want to do it before lunch or after?
It doesn't matter.
Okay. I'll just let you guys call me.
Okay. So you're available pretty much all day?
Yeah. I took Friday off. Well,
I was just writing me a note to say before
Yeah.
so I don't mess it up.
okay. Yeah. Sometime before or after, yeah.